It isn't much.
But we were told to call it a tax shift, or we're calling it a...
Pam, do you have your script for the?
Your phone.
Could you? Good, thank you.
Well, double check. Double check with him today would be nice.
I would explain it. And then yes or no.
Okay. But I would just get the ones that are related to property tax exemption. No, it's these guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I asked this morning that same question.
I think that was the one. I'm not sure.
I don't think you need to do the gambling.
Madam Mayor, it's 6 o'clock. Brian.
Would all commissioners please come to the dais?
Richard, Richard.
Captain Bear has
Sports betting
a
at the casino. Can you get that through?
Everyone, we're live. Find your seats, please. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Tuesday, August 21st, regular City Commission meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triolo,
Here.
Vice Mayor Andy Amoroso,
Here.
Commissioner Scott Maxwell,
Here.
Commissioner Omari Hardy, absent for the roll, but I know he's here. Commissioner Herman Robinson,
I'm here.
thank you.
If everyone would please rise for the invocation on behalf of Commissioner Maxwell.
Dear God, we come today to bow our heads and open this meeting in prayer. We ask that you would bless our speakers and that you would bless our time together today. May we grasp those things that you want us to understand. May our hearts always be ready to respond to you and your wisdom. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Robinson,
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Okay, additions, deletions, reordering. Do we have any?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okie dokie, moving on then. Presentations. PBSO quarterly presentation by Captain Todd Bear. Come on down.
Good evening, everyone. I'm back. I brought with me my Major Chris Keene, and my Lieutenant Sean Bosdeck. And as for those that don't know me, I'm Todd Bear, your district captain. I'm here for my quarterly presentation, and this time around it is community policing again. Should be quick and painless. These are the things I'm going to go over tonight. Many of you, I believe all of you, were at the Little Free Library opening, unveiling with Mary Lindsay and I. We're going to talk about the camera project. It's going well. Of course, the overdose data, marijuana dispensaries, some of our federal cases, and then the Defy Youth Camp. A few months ago, Mary Lindsay introduced me to the Bowl Brothers, who created the Little Free Library program that I know most of you are all familiar with. They came in, they're very, very interesting individuals with a great story, and they proposed that we be one of the law enforcement agencies that has a Little Free Library program. So far, we're the first one in the southeast part of the United States. They've already done this in Los Angeles, Chicago, St. Louis, and a few other major cities, but they really wanted to bring the program to the southeast, and with Mary's support, of course, and the city being so involved in this program, they chose us. I always liked and supported the Little Free Library program, and I like that we have one in the lobby there. You can't see it from there, but the artist who volunteered her time did a fantastic job. That badge, that star, looks like a picture, and it's actually a painting. And then on one side, you have me. On the other side, you have the sheriff and Chief Gauger. She just did a really good job, right down to having our two canines on there with their actual name tags. So it's a really nice library. Hopefully next time you're in the lobby for a good reason, you can check it out. What I really like about the program is the bottom right picture. Those are two mobile Little Free Libraries. Right now we have 4. We have 2 on each of the day squads. So 4 of our day shift deputies have those in their car. and they can drive around to where the kids are, say the park or basketball court or whatnot, and they can pull up and let them look through and pick books. And with the children, it's not take a book, leave a book. We just want them to take a book and then give it to their siblings or friends. So they've all told me they're on, like, a couple weeks ago I checked, and they've all turned over like 3 or 4 of those baskets full already. So it's a great way. As I've said in the past, I'm not a big fan of the one-hit wonders where, you know, we take a snapshot with a kid fishing. You know, that has its purpose, the one-time thing. But this is a reoccurring thing that you know, could have a lasting effect on the kids. It's great to take them fishing for a day, and I'm not trying to knock that, but I like the programs that build from there. Hopefully this will help the kids with their reading skills, and they also get to see us in a different light. The cameras and the tag readers, or ALPRs, automated license plate readers, I'm happy to say it's all on schedule. Both projects are on schedule. They're not up yet, the other 20 cameras, but they are being built on schedule. Everything's arriving, as are the tag readers. We've had very minor hiccups with the logistics, but you know, nothing to knock us off schedule. I'm hoping by the end of summer that we will have 22 tag readers up and running, which will cover all the major ingresses and egresses, as well as 20 more tilt pan zoom color cameras that will give us a total of 30. Those are being live monitored from headquarters by our real-time crime center personnel. We've made hundreds of arrests off those 10 cameras already. As I told you last time, we only have 3 portable ALPRs up right now, and on a couple different occasions we've gotten 3 stolen cars in one night. We average at least 3 or 4 stolen cars a week, so it's making a difference. That's just a little snapshot, and I anticipate that'll go up. That's our stolen car arrest, stolen vehicle arrests for January through July, the last 5 years. As you can see, it's going up each year, and that's not the cases, that's the arrests. And that's, like I said, that's with just 3. So when we have 22, I can only imagine it's going to get a little hectic for a while until the word gets out to the bad guys. There's our overdose update. I have to look at this one to see it. They went up a little bit in the summer, kind of plateaued. We're still averaging, unfortunately, about 5 deaths a month, about 29 non-fatal overdoses a month, for a total of about 34 a month. And the rolling number is 401 for the last 12 months. It's still really high, still 401 people, but if you recall, just a couple years ago, it was in the 600s. So it's coming down, but not as quickly as we would like. Marijuana dispensaries. Lieutenant Bosdek and I toured both of them recently with some other city law enforcement that are looking at, where their cities are looking at bringing these in. They allayed most of my fears. The only fear I still would have is robberies, due to it being a cash business. But I can tell you that at both facilities, they're taking every precaution we could suggest to them to prevent that. They allayed all my other fears about abuse and things like that. Both ran a very professional organization. And I can tell you that we've had a handful of calls for service at each, and 0 crimes. These are like suspicious persons, your typical non-crime calls. I believe there were 3 or 4 at each since they opened. So far it has been a non-issue for us on our end. Federal cases. This year, in the last 6 months, we've presented 9 cases to the U.S. Attorney's Office. We've been working very closely with the DEA. These are your dealers. These are gun and drug cases. A couple have already pled and taken 10-year sentences. That's typically much lengthier, stiffer punishments than the state system for a few different reasons. But this is a tactic we're using quite a bit lately. We just took one person down at 6 South and Dixie, where I've been getting a lot of complaints. And sometimes you take that root cause out, and a lot of the surrounding issues will also go away. So that's the thought process there among all of our other efforts. But that's very encouraging to get, you know, 9 of those in the last 6 months, because there's a lot of criteria we have to meet for somebody to be charged federally. This is something new this year. We just did with the U.S. Attorney's Office through those relationships we've been building with them. It's the Defy Youth Camp. That's drug education for youth. The U.S. Attorney's Office down in Broward County paid for all of this. We sent several of our elementary school age children to a 1-week program where you live there to teach them drug awareness and whatnot. They did all of the cost and a bulk of the work. So that's a program they reached out to us to start in Lake Worth, and we're hoping to continue that year after year. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Captain, do you think that the wide availability of Narcan right now has helped some of the statistics for the opioid deaths?
My opinion, yes, it probably has helped. It's probably helped, and it's also masked some of the numbers, because now that it's more readily available, sometimes we don't get the call at all, us or fire rescue. So it's probably helped, and at the same time, there's probably people being revived that, fire rescue and us are not even aware of.
And the numbers, again, I just wanted to reiterate, when you talked about the number of arrests that were made in that graph chart that you had, it's not that necessarily that the number of crimes went up, but the actual arrests on it, because you have all these extra tools now, was more intense, correct?
Yes, stolen car numbers are not up. Everything but one category are down this year on top of last year, which is good. But yeah, the number of arrests are up, which is a good thing.
What was our final crime number, too, in the last?
Last year, overall crime was down 17.2% for 2018, and it's down for the first 6 months of 2019, but I can't release it yet because it's not official. Once FDLE releases it, then I can make you guys aware of January to July.
Is it looking good?
But the unofficial numbers look pretty good. We still have areas to improve, but they look pretty good.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, Captain.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Maxwell.
Thank you, Captain Bear. Thank you to your team again for making us all feel a little bit safer each night. We appreciate that. What was that reduction in crime figure you just mentioned a minute ago?
Last year was 17.2 overall.
It was down 17.2.
Yes.
I never get tired of hearing that, do you? I want to talk a little bit about the stolen cars, though. And you clarified that stolen cars are not, the crime of stealing cars is not up, but the number of arrests are. Are you finding that these folks, these knuckleheads that you're arresting, are they in cars that were stolen here in the city, or are they being cars that are coming into the city from outside the city and they're...
I'm glad you brought that up for other reasons, but we're finding a mix of both. We're finding people from all over the South Florida area in these stolen cars, but what we're not finding is the common argument used to be that, a good portion of stolen vehicles are joyrides or kids or whatnot. We are not finding that at all. What we're finding is, and we've changed our tactics in addition to the LPRs, we've changed our tactics to where we're able to apprehend them better and in a safer manner. And I won't elaborate on that, but what we're finding burglary tools and guns and things like that. These kids, these are not joyrides. They're coming here to do burglaries, robberies, shootings, things like that. And we're getting them from all over the South Florida area. And the thing with the tag readers, it's not just stolen cars that makes us excited about crime reduction. We can use it as an investigative tool as well. Let's say we have a crime at 6 South and Dixie at 3 in the morning, regardless whether it's a burglary, a shooting, what have you. We typically have a witness or two, and they'll say it was a black Honda Accord, but we don't know anything else. We can pull that data and say, hey, a black Honda Accord came and hit the ALPRs on the West Palm line at 2:55 and left into Lantana at 3:07. And that's a big lead. Now, instead of a million black Honda Accords, we can start looking at that one or two, and that can be used for anything, like I said, from a car burglary up to a homicide. So it's going to be great for investigative leads for our detectives and the violent crime detectives.
Excellent, thank you. Vice Mayor?
And can you just go a little bit more into the cameras and the tag readers, how successful they are, and when will the next batch of cameras and tag readers be up and running?
I don't have an exact timestamp there. I'm being told end of summer. I know all the cameras arrived because they came to our district. They're being assembled by our guys. The tag readers are going to be installed by the company that the city paid for, and I'm still being told end of summer. Last time I checked, and it's a few months ago, we used the 10 cameras 300 and some times for stops, and we had made 100 and some arrests based on those. They can zero in and see a tag. They can zero in and see what kind of beer somebody's holding if the people are in that area. And as I've said before, we have the 10 right now are in hot spots. The 20 we're getting, there's about 12 more hot spots, and then 8 spots where they're just high volume, high traffic areas like the beach, downtown, parks, things like that. So we'll have about 20 some hot spots covered and 8 to 10 just high volume areas.
Great.
Where we get a lot of people and traffic.
And real quick follow-up, if you don't mind. And in your future reports, can we have a line item that shows the cameras and the tag readers, being that we, use grant money and we use the penny sales tax? It would be nice to get an update on those numbers, just like you had mentioned.
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, some of my question was touched on. I was just curious about the way in which the cameras and the license plate readers might perhaps work together synergistically. But if you have anything else to say about that, I would appreciate it. If not, then
They're in some of the same areas. They're different. They're not working exactly together. The tag readers actually have cameras to verify, that 8 isn't a B and things like that, and to verify that stolen tag is on the car. That sometimes people steal a car and they put the stolen car tag on another car. It kind of gives us that way we know it. If it's supposed to be a stolen black Honda Accord, you can see it. It's a stolen black Honda Accord. It's not on a van. But they have their own cameras, but then the other ones are monitored by our Fusion Center people, and they will be. A lot of the hot spots are, are where we're going to have the ALPRs too. So they sort of work together, but not exactly.
okay.
Commissioner Robinson?
I just wanted to hear a comment on the cooperation of surrounding forces, incoming, outgoing, your cooperation between other.
Thank you.
Excellent question. I'm actually meeting with Lantana Police tomorrow. We are all working together. The companies we chose to go with for a few different reasons, what we recommended that you all went with was called Vigilant Solutions. And the reason we went with that is they're kind of the one, kind of like Taser dominates the ECW industry. They dominate this industry. We're not worried about them going out of business, and more agencies use them. So West Palm's using them, and they actually helped us out. They're putting some of their cameras on North Dixie in our city, and that way we can get the data, but yet we can put those cameras we were going to put there in other locations. So we're working with West Palm, and then Lantana I'm meeting tomorrow. We're looking to put some cameras in their area where it would free up some more cameras for us to put in other places. And then also that information will be available to them as well. So Delray's doing this, Wellington's doing this, so they all can talk. The black Honda that hits in Lake Worth may hit out in Wellington, and we will know that if it's a crime car.
You have a follow-up?
In terms of helping, cooperating in the payment of a camera that's on the border, did we get any response from surrounding towns?
West Palm we're using their cameras in a few spots. So in effect, they paid for those cameras. So we're using cameras we bought for those areas in other places. So in effect, West Palm's helping us out, and we're kind of might be paying it forward into Lantana because they're just now investigating their options.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Okay, proclamation declaring August 31st, 2018 as Overdose Awareness Day.
Captain Bear,
Captain Bear's
You're
going to
gonna-
take
You're going to take this?
you're gonna, yeah. They're gonna present it to you.
You come down here.
In a workout. Do you feel the air? Turn it down.
Whereas addiction is an American Medical Association defined disease, and the stigma associated with addiction must be addressed so that no one feels shame or disgrace over illegal or illegal drug poisoning. And whereas drug poisoning is the #1 cause of injury deaths in the nation, with an accidental drug overdose death occurring every 11 minutes, surpassing deaths from motor vehicle accidents or gun homicides. And whereas, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 52,404 people died in the U.S. as a result of a drug poisoning, or 144 per day during 2015 alone, the most current reporting year. And whereas, according to the Florida Medical Examiners Commission, there were 2,191 accidental deaths in the state of Florida during 2015 caused by a prescription drug poisoning. And whereas, according to Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration, there were 4,926 hospital patients admitted for prescription opioid or heroin drug poisoning during just the first 6 months of 2016 in all of Florida, including 421 patients in Broward County, 562 in Palm Beach County, and 284 in Miami-Dade County. And whereas, by acknowledging all those who have been affected by prescription drug poisoning, we help the general public understand its effect on the community of Boca Raton, Florida, Lake Worth, Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida, and all of our county. And whereas, the city of Lake Worth remains committed to raising awareness in order to combat stigma and educate our community about prescription drug poisoning prevention. Now, therefore, I, Pam Triolo, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim August 31st, 2018 as Overdose Awareness Day.
Hold on.
Does he have a Captain America come on his phone?
Up next, the presentation for Lineman Appreciation Day. Get on up here.
I'm not gonna hug you.
That's
I will.
I'll hug for all of you guys, okay? I think that's safe.
Group hug. Group hug.
Group hug. Whereas America is powered by thousands of independently owned and operated electric generating facilities known as power plants that generate electric energy. And whereas these power plants are connected to a complex energy system called the electric grid that is comprised of over 5 million line miles of transmission and distribution lines that deliver energy to homes and businesses, churches, hospitals, and schools across the country. And whereas this system of electric lines is kept in a high state of readiness by 114,000 dedicated and skilled men and women known as electric line workers that work for all the independently owned and operated utilities across America. And whereas electric line workers are a cohesive group that must work as highly effective teams in very hazardous situations under very rigorous conditions that respond to disaster areas, to restore power to customers' homes, and has been ranked as one of the 10 most dangerous jobs in which 30 to 60 people lose their lives annually. And whereas Lake Worth electric line workers have demonstrated their dedication and skills and are hard-working men and women who risk their lives daily, working extremely dangerous situations to ensure that reliable electric energy is delivered to Lake Worth homes and businesses. Whereas it is most fitting and proper that the city of Lake Worth set aside a special day to recognize and honor these dedicated professionals. Now, therefore, I, Pam Triolo, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim August 26, 2018 as Lineman Appreciation Day. Mayor Sanders.
Wow. It just keeps happening, doesn't
Big hug for me. All right. Up next, a proclamation. No, just kidding. That's not All right, Commission Liaison Reports and Comments. Commissioner Robinson, would you mind starting?
The first day of school was fantastic in Lake Worth. Kids, family, parents, all smiles, a couple tears, but that's usual. And it was a happy day in Lake Worth. Teachers were ready, and facilities looked good. Security was there, and it was a great day. High fives all the way around. At North, I went to North Grade, and it was great. Went to the League of Cities and saw all the dignitaries. That's a joke. But there was information that was valuable to bring back to help us better govern our city. That's just about it. The election, primary election is next Tuesday, and apathy is a terrible thing in our country in regards to anything. But voting is very important, so please do so.
Thank you.
That's it from me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I attended the roundtable, the mayor's roundtable with Representative Lois Frankel. Talked about all the hot topics and what she could do for the city of Lake Worth. Before we left, she went around the table and asked everybody if we could tell her one thing. I picked mental health. I asked her for more funding and housing for mental health, because being that I sit on the Sober Home Task Force and seeing the issues in the city of Lake Worth, I think it starts with mental health. Years ago, if you remember, they shut down a lot of the mental health facilities and just opened the doors and released people. I think that if we could get a grasp on the mental health issues with funding and living space, we could take care of some of the overdose issues, the overcrowding, the regular homelessness. Last time I checked, Palm Beach County had over 500 people on their homeless list for housing. And that doesn't even take in consideration the mental health issues, the people that are out on the street that may not be able to get help on their own. So, that was the one topic. We have so many different topics, but if we were to pick one, that was my hot topic. I also attended the Sober Home Task Force. I attended the Florida League of Cities. I sit on the Florida League of Cities board. This year's topic was 50 years of home rule. If you remember, we've been going the last year or so to Tallahassee and Washington fighting for home rule on behalf of the cities. It's very important that we don't let our guard down. And everybody knows about home rule. And again, it's 50 years of fighting home rule. What home rule means to us is that we on the dais can make those decisions for our taxpayers with the best interests of the cities. For instance, the homestead exemption, the $25,000 additional homestead exemption, we need to let people know that they may think it's a good thing, but it's really a tax shift. There's a very small window of people that will benefit from it, but everyone else will be paying for it. It's a tax shift, not a tax break. So I hope that people will get educated on those issues for that additional $25,000. Palm Beach County League of Cities meets tomorrow. The main thing that I took away from the 50 years home rule Florida League of Cities is let cities work. We're doing the work for the people that best benefit our cities, so let us do the work and represent our cities. On a personal note, I will be moving my shop from downtown. After 24 years, my landlord has doubled my rent. We have secured a new place 2 blocks over, the old Mother Earth location behind Bulldoggers Antiques. We will be opening Monday. Very excited, very stressed, but it'll be a great thing. I want to thank Mayor Pam Triola for all her help. As the food lady, she's helped us create a new menu and moving that move forward. I want to thank Commissioner Maxwell and Commissioner Robinson for helping me with some of the hard labor, moving things. They've been very gracious in donating their time in anything that we need. I want to thank Kathy Turk for reaching out and helping and you know, helping with the stress levels. So it does truly take a community, and hopefully you'll come visit Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy?
Sure. First day of school was cool in Lake Worth. There are lots of volunteers at Highland Elementary and at North Grade Elementary. Unfortunately, I couldn't be one of them because I was experiencing my own first day of school as a teacher at Roosevelt Middle School, but I'm told that things went well and that the kids were more than adequately welcomed, and that was amazing. I caught the tail end of the Florida League of Cities. Again, I'm a school teacher, so I certainly can't take off the first week of school to go to a conference. That'd be quite a way to set the tone. As a teacher, the other thing that I'm looking forward to that we're beginning to have discussions about is our first joint meeting with members of the school board. So about a month ago, we passed a resolution that basically requires us to at least try to meet with our elected members of the school board, those who represent this area of Lake Worth, and we're fortunate enough to have two. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm told it'll be sometime in November. So I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be the first time that those of us on this dais are going to be able to have a conversation in public about what we think our priorities are for a school. So I absolutely cannot wait. The other thing is, I did a nighttime ride along with Larry Lightfoot, our parking division manager. And we did it in Tropical Ridge neighborhood in my district, which has never seen parking enforcement. And we had lots of issues. People parking really close to stop signs you can't see. You know, it was becoming a safety issue. So the first thing we did was we had all the curbs painted. They're all now mostly painted. They're still going, but so that, you know, we give fair warning to people that you can't park near a stop sign and obstruct people's views and make it hard for people to go out on an intersection. And then Larry Lightfoot and I went out in one evening, and in about 2 hours we wrote about 14 citations, most of them for people parking right up on a stop sign. No, there was very little parking the wrong way, but it was people literally parking on the edge of a stop sign. You can't see anything. And so parking enforcement will be happening every week in Tropical Ridge, and I'm actually looking forward to that. I think people are going to be trained to do things a little more safely. So that's it. Oh, the other thing is I'm really happy about what's upcoming on the consent agenda, the $34,000 from the Bureau of Justice Assistance for code enforcement training. Very happy about that. So,
Excellent. Thanks. Mr. Maxwell?
Thank you. I don't have an awful lot this evening other than I wanted to speak just very briefly about, seems to be an uptick, and not a huge number, but there is a little bit of an uptick, if you will, of concerned residents over how they're being communicated with prior to their streets being redone. I personally feel pretty satisfied that we're doing what we need to be doing, but I don't think everybody agrees with me or maybe what we're doing. Is there something we can do to enhance? I'm looking at the city manager and he's kind of ignoring me right now, but that's okay.
I was in my happy place.
We need to come out of your happy place. Okay. Is there anything else? Can we do a little better with this, because it seems like we're getting an uptick in this type of email activity, and I for the life of me don't know what we could do much differently than what we're doing now.
We do quite a bit, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. From the beginning of the concept of the project, having the designers, the engineers go out and meet with the residents and get people involved in what the actual design is going to look like and how it's going to roll. When we get down to the actual construction, that seems to be where we're getting some of the complaints, and you have to divide those up into people complaining about particular issues to their properties, and the communication is happening and we're correcting those problems.
City Manager, would you mind terribly, just because it's your public comment time, do you think we can bring this back as an update, maybe from the staff, as to what the notification process is and have a discussion about it? I just don't want to go back and forth during the presentation period. Thank you.
In that case, we'll bring it up some other time.
I'd like to, because I agree with you.
And Commissioner Robinson mentioned the voting, the early voting. It is out there in full swing, all 14 days of its glory. And I guess there's a 38% increase in voter turnout so far over 2016 for the primaries. So you may think there's some apathy out there, but there seems to be quite a bit of activity. So 38% increase is not too bad. Other than that, I don't have a whole heck of a lot other than to, you know, thank the Sheriff's Office again. I cannot thank you guys enough. Even when you were on vacation, Captain Bear, things went smoothly. I know, but you know what they say about the, you know, the blind squirrel, right? Yeah. So no, seriously, you guys do an excellent job, and I'm really excited about all this new technology we're bringing to help with the things that you do every day. I think it's going to be a huge help for us. The real big question I have in my mind is, you know, what we as a body or as a city are going to do with that in terms of marketing it, whether we should market that and let the bad guys know that it really doesn't pay to come into within our city limits, or whether we're better off to just let it ride and let you guys do what you do best. Because I really I'm hoping at the end of this project that people will learn that you're not going to come into Lake Worth and do your misdeeds without running the real severe risk of being picked up as soon as you cross the border. So thank you again. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Also, one of the great things of having such an involved commission is that we get to attend a lot, if it's been noticed before, we get to attend a lot of things together. So it's nice to have so much involvement from you guys, and I really do appreciate it. Congresswoman Frankel, when she came in here, it was a great forum for mayors, and we all sat around and talked about the big issues and updates on the opiates and everything that was going on. And one of the asks when the vice mayor talked about mental health certainly is a huge issue. If we look at every single city, you know, what we're dealing with, from homeless veterans and those with Alzheimer's and different forms of dementia and all kinds of things, and us not having a place is causing a problem all over the country, not just in our city. So I always look to things that, you know, where we can, you know, we used to sit there and talk about the opioid epidemic, and other cities, especially up north, were saying, well, we don't have a problem, you know, trying to get those politicos to actually understand what we were going through was close to impossible. And, you know, now we're seeing, you know, I receive emails from my hometown in New York, and I receive emails from newspapers, you know, I'm on lists across the country, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, you know, all different places that were not even the slightest bit impacted or wanted to help us when we were going through the thick of it, are now experiencing it in droves and crazy, insane numbers like we had when we first were experiencing it. So, you know what, I hate to say it, they had to experience it to go through it and have compassion for us down here, but they're going through it now, and I don't wish it on my worst enemy, that's for darn sure, but I just know that we all have to band together as a country to deal with this and to find solutions, and that's what I'm hoping, their eyes are being open to it so that they can see that we're not advocating as just a lone wolf. It's a problem, and we have to all help each other. The other problem that I discussed with Congresswoman is she's been fighting for us in a big way about FEMA. And this stems all the way back to the hurricanes, Francis, Jean, and Wilma, I think, all the way, right, of 05. And, you know, and them requiring money of us and all kinds of battles back and forth. I actually had a chance to go to Washington, D.C. to meet with FEMA, with the city manager, and it was a mess. And she basically put legislation forward that said, you know, that she wanted to stop them from coming after and going after any more cities for more money. And that was the legislation that she put in. And she's continuing to fight that on different levels as certain arguments come up. So hopefully that will be advantageous for not just us, but a lot of other cities here in South Florida too. So, you know, we'll keep you posted on that, and fingers crossed. That's pretty much it. TPA is on vacation. They usually shut down for the month of August. So we'll be back in September for that. TPA, just to remind everyone, is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. The former NPO is now the TPA. So when I say TPA now, you know what I mean. Okay. Moving on to public participation of non-agended and consent agenda items. And the first person up is Rebecca Hinson, followed by Elcira Bravo.
Hello, how are you? I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Just please, your name and your
I'm
address.
sorry, Rebecca Hinson. I live at 818 North Palm Way. When the city talked to us about paying additional taxes to support redoing our roads, I remember specifically being promised that drainage issues would be addressed. I live at 818 North Palm Way. We have vast pools of water in front of our homes after it rains. The closest additional new drainage to our block is Fifth Avenue North. Talking to the workmen, the city's plan is inadequate. Fifth Avenue drainage will not help us. We need drainage closer to our block that's going to address our issues as we were originally promised.
Thank you.
So can you give me any feedback on what can be done?
Actually, City Manager, would you please see that Jamie talks with us? Is he here?
He's listening.
He's listening,
He'll
okay.
meet you outside if you
He'll meet you outside if you want to go check and meet with
What's
him.
his name?
Jamie Brown. Thank you so much. Elcira Bravo, did I pronounce that right? Okay, good. Followed by Todd Townsend. If you would just state your name and address too, please.
Good evening, my name is Elcira Bravo. I'm from Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies. Our address is 4601 Lake Worth Road, Green Acres, Florida, 33463. Previously, we were actually located on Dixie Highway. We were more in the community, but recently we relocated and moved out. So why I'm basically here, I want to just have the public and you guys know of some of the changes that we have in our programs now and the outreach that we're trying to reach in the community and how we can establish a better relationship and being able to have more of our information in this location specifically because there is a higher infant mortality rate in Lake Worth as well as Riviera Beach, Belgrade, and some of the other areas. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown of some of the things that we have up and coming. For example, we have our prenatal care coordination. It provides screening and assessment to pregnant women, assist with access to healthcare provider and medical payment source, usually Medicaid funded. We also link women to other healthy beginning programs such as Bridges, such as we have a bunch, Home Safe, all located in Lake Worth, and we're all trying to just come together as a community as part of the Children's Service Council to really just have all those resources, be able to reach these families in a much easier way by community participation. We have our Caps to Cribs mentoring program, our 101 teen mom mentoring program that wants to make sure that nothing stops the teen from graduating high school. We work really, really closely with Lake Worth High, so that's another reason why we're trying to get in this area a little bit more fitted. The girls in the program are connected with a professional working mom who will support and encourage their plans for the future. It's an easy way for the teen mom to ask questions, spend time with, and learn from experienced working mothers who have been there and made it through their pregnancy just fine. And finally, since you guys were also talking about mental health, we also just started a Circle of Moms group, which is talking with other moms-to-be who are experiencing the same feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. Our peer-to-peer emotional support groups of Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition of Palm Beach County allows moms to share their own feelings or just listen. Groups are offered at several locations. Partners and other family members are also welcomed. We're specifically located in the health department, the Lake Worth Montana Health Department, and it's also offered in different languages, Spanish and Creole as well. So if they're interested, they can also do that. And we have our emergency diaper pantry. The main reason why we're trying to also get help is about a year ago, we noticed that there was a gap in our hunger relief plan where there was nothing for infants. So in our pantry, we offer formula and baby food on an emergency basis. This is where we have a need in the purchasing of formula and baby foods. So if there are also organizations that would like to help us in getting access for mothers to have at least the essentials for baby needs or pantry needs, then we're also just trying to reach as many people as we can. We're located, like I said, on 4601 Lake Worth Road, Green Acres, just the northwest corner from where Tacos Al Carbones. And yeah, and I am a part of this community. I grew up here. I'm a long background here, so I just really, really want to give back as much as I can to the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Manager, if you would see that we can distribute that information. Thank you. Todd Townsend, followed by Richard Stowe.
Hi friends, Todd Townsend, 502 South J Street, longtime owner here in Lake Worth. And I'm here in front of the commission because I wanted to talk about a certain project that I've come up with, because I'm very much interested in not allowing the roads to get clogged up. If people build something really big on our beach, we're going to get clogged roads. I live at the corner of 6th and J Street, and it would be really bad for me to have to wait for 2 light revolutions to get out and then, you know, cross Dixie Highway or to use Dixie Highway. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was a garage that we desperately need, a parking garage on the beach as you come into the beach, just on the left-hand side. If we build a 2 or 3-story parking garage right there, that's going to allow the casino buildings to be actually used. They're sitting there now as a faux pas that's killing all of us. If we want to use those buildings, we're going to need a garage that is just about level with that second floor so that people can walk right in there. And when we have parties and stuff like that, they can be made private so that people can have their parties. And when there's no parties, it can be part of the regular public parking. So I'm going to be coming out to the different community association meetings, talking about details with that. So I hope everybody will come out and let's talk and let's make some money in Lake Worth, and I have other stuff coming up too. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Richard Stowe, followed by Tammy Panza. Tammy, do you want me to read this or you'll come up? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Richard Stowe, 414 North Federal Highway. I wanted to share some thoughts I had about the induced demand parking schemes presented by CPC Architects at the last commission meeting. Scheme A1, there was a net addition of 77 spaces that was created by the architects, and the cost for that, setting aside a number of things, is $46,355 per space. The payback period, assuming you work with the numbers that the architects work with, which was the $2 per hour rate, would be 19.3 years. Scheme D was also interesting. That was the first scheme where a parking garage was added into the casino complex. And with that, you have a cost of $57,029 per space. Again, your payback period is about 24 years. And then finally, that was for all the you weren't here. That was a level on top of an existing level of parking, if you will. Finally, Scheme E. That's where they add in I'm trying to figure out how many levels on Scheme E, but it's the cost on that is $46,000. Yeah, two-story parking, $46,845 per space, and then there's actually one more, and I believe that's Scheme F, and that is I believe $59,000 per space. So some of the things that the architectural firm did not take into account is the loss of revenue during the construction period. They didn't say how long the construction would take place, what they estimated time, so I couldn't give you any numbers on that. There was no measurement or discussion about the cost, the costs associated with the loss of open space. And
Thank you very much. Tammy Panza, followed by Anna. I can't read the last name, I'm sorry, Anna.
Hi, Tammy Panza, 116 North L. I have a little bit of a problem. I galloped here after work to get to the PBSO report, which is normally at least 10 minutes long, and it wasn't 10 minutes. Sorry, I missed most of it, but I'm really related to that. I'm really missing the PBSO at our neighborhood meetings. Right now, that was one of our most updated, most popular parts of our meetings. People had the opportunity to get out there, talk with the people, talk with the officers who may or may not have known what was actually going on in the neighborhood, but I'd like to see them back at the neighborhood. I'd like to see them well informed. And right now, the way it is, we don't have a lot of feedback from those meetings. Right now, if you do attend one of those meetings, it's one person. You have to figure out if they're going to be at the next meeting to do a report on it. There's no opportunity to have input, really, unless someone was at the neighborhood meeting, gave notice, and then they're going to wait till the end of the month to give the input, and then go to the next meeting to get feedback. And that's 2 months approximately before you can get anything done if you want to report something within the neighborhood. So I don't see that working. It's kind of like the NAPC, where we don't hear anything from the NAPC going back down, and the city is really making that a big deal as far as structure. You know, going up, going down the food chain. Is just, we don't hear that stuff back. So there's 2 avenues where we don't hear stuff back from NAPC, we don't hear stuff back from PBSO, and we'd like to have a little bit more of a voice. If we're utilizing within the city webpage, we're utilizing the neighborhoods when not every area is covered by a neighborhood, so you don't have representation for all the people in Lake Worth. They go to the roads program, which is related, and they say, hey, what neighborhood are you in? I don't know. I'm not in the neighborhood. Well, how do I get an update then? So it's a communication that's lacking. And I wanted to speak to Commissioner Maxwell's interaction on reporting on who's working on the roads, where and when. I think with all the different contractors working on the different areas, it's messy at best. We just got done on M Street, where we got a whole new road, and they left canals on the side where you can't even get out of your front gate. They dump a huge load of dirt in front of somebody else's gate, so they can't get out. You dump a huge, I think somebody was on a wheelchair where they had to go out the back of their property, go down an alley and get around. So if you're gonna be blocking streets and all of that, you gotta let people know. They just tore up J Street and they didn't get any notification whatsoever, whereas other people get very good notification. So if we can improve that communication so everybody has a standard level of communication, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Anna?
Crochet 35 South J Street, number 15, Lake Worth, Florida, 324. First of all, I wanted to ask if we could, maybe through a commission in human services, first of all, work as far as a health insurance parts day, just that is part of, I don't know if it's human resources or human services, but a parts day or a parts, a parts to help list, just collect from local doctors' offices and, parts. Very often we make so many phone calls around, and there's so many scam artists and fraudulent worlds in the world, just to call around, maybe we could work with human resources or human services. There are elderly people, disabled people, elderly people, etc., who need to know parts. Secondly, I wanted to talk about, the materials of the road work, using cement and not tar. A walk organization or a walk collaborative, again, the parts to help and work credits, where are work credits coming from? What are the basis of our work credits? And plant taxonomy, a good plant taxonomy or work credits related to plant taxonomy or work credits related to environmental jobs, and cement for the roads, not tar, bitumen, and asphalt. And that's what I have to say, especially the parts to help.
Thank you. Any more comment cards?
That's it, Madam Mayor.
Seeing there are none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes.
So moved. Seconded.
All those in favor state so by saying
Aye.
aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our consent agenda.
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our public hearing. City Attorney, moving fast. Would you like to read ordinance number 2018-11? I moved too quick for you?
She had to wake him up first.
2018-11, right there. Ordinance number 2018-11 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 16 Pensions and Retirement, Article 2, Employees Retirement System, Section 16-26, Participation in the Pension Plan, Section 16-27, Vesting Credits, 16-29, Pension Benefits, Section 16-33, Severance Benefits, and Section 16-35, Benefit Level. Creating a new Section 16-44, 16-45, 16-46, 16-47, 16-48, 16-49, and 16-50.
Thank you so much.
This is not done yet. I gotta keep going. There's even more to this one. It's a long one.
Oh, please go.
I almost said hike after that last one.
I know, pretty good. Keep going.
Okay. To create a cash balance plan in addition to the existing benefit structure, to enhance certain provisions of the existing benefit structure, and to provide a one-time option for specified employees to remain in the existing benefit structure, prime severability, the repeal of loss and conflict, codification, and effective date. Now we're taking a breath. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Commissioner Maxwell, did you want to move this one now that he's finished?
No, not at all.
He was too long? You
I didn't
refused?
understand a word he said.
I gotta say backwards now?
I'll entertain a
So
motion. Moved. Second?
Seconded.
Seeing this is the second reading, again, we had a presentation the last time around. This is hopefully a positive resolution to a long-standing challenge that the city's had for a long time, and I'm happy to see it come through. Do we have any cards?
No, Madam Mayor.
Seeing there are none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lauren. All right, moving on to item 10B. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so first of all, I need City Attorney, would you read the ordinance for the record?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Ordinance number 2018-13 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, changing the zoning of the property described in Exhibit A from a City of Lake Worth zoning of low-density multifamily residential, MF20, to City of Lake Worth zoning of downtown, DT, providing that conflicting ordinances are repealed, providing severability, and providing an effective date. And this is that quasi-judicial intervention.
Again, because it's quasi-judicial, please, everyone, I just want you to stick with me on this one and not go off in different directions because we have to adhere to a very simple form, okay, in reference to how we do it. The first thing being said is that this item on the agenda, I have to ask each and every commissioner one by one, has any commissioner had any ex parte communications to disclose in reference to this item? Starting in this direction. Commissioner Maxwell.
Not I.
I had a conversation with who I believe is the consultant of the party, who would be, I mean, do I have to disclose that?
You have to disclose that in the general nature of the conversation.
It was Wes Blackman who informed me that the conversation, that this would be coming to us. So, yeah.
Vice Mayor?
Again, I've had a conversation with Wes Blackman, which I understand to be a representative for the builders or the buyers. And again, it was just a general conversation that this would be coming forward and what it was.
Commissioner Robinson?
And I did have a conversation with the investors and the consultant, Wes Blackman, investors from New Orleans, and I was enthused with their enthusiasm for investing in Lake Worth.
I did not have any conversations with anybody in regards to this project. Okay, so we move on then. All those giving testimony, please stand. Raise your right hand, face the city attorney, and be sworn in, please.
Do each of you swear or affirm that in this proceeding you will tell the truth, and nothing but the truth? And if so, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you all.
City attorney, you want to continue on?
Okay. At this point, when it's your turn to testify, please state your name and address for the records, and if you represent a party, please state who you represent.
So each one by one when you do that, and then William, if you or any other city employee wants to give a presentation, I guess, on this moment, would be Mark. Thank you, Mark.
For the record, Mark Stivers, Deputy Director for Department of Community Sustainability, City of Lake Worth. What we have before us tonight is a rezoning request of a single parcel. The applicant is Richard Zaborski. He's represented by Wes Blackman here tonight. The current zoning on the property is low-density multifamily residential, MF20, and the request is to rezone that property at 112 North O Street from its current zoning to downtown zoning district. Following maps show you the one on your left is the current zoning map. It shows in yellow the residential zoning district, and pink is the downtown zoning district. The map on the right is the future land use map. And that shows that the future land use category for this entire area is downtown mixed use. Now again, let me make sure we all understand the difference between the two maps. The future land use map is set up to be a policy statement for the general land use classifications within an area. The zoning map then is the implementing map, or the law, if you will, that then establishes specific zoning for that parcel. So here's the subject site. The subject site is the vacant lot. I'll drop your eyes to the bottom right corner. This is the house that is adjacent to it. I want to be clear, this is a rezoning request, but what will be coming forward to the Historic Preservation Board is request for a bed and breakfast and a small hotel in this location. Properties to the west and to the north, so you see that it does maintain more of a residential feel. It is downtown. So looking at the comprehensive plan, the future land use category is, as I mentioned, a downtown mixed use category. The intent of this district is to establish the establishment and expansion of a broad range of office, service, commercial, and retail uses. As you remember the two maps, I said that the zoning map is the law. The implementing districts under the downtown mixed use include downtown zoning, mixed use east zoning, medium density residential MF30, and low density multifamily MF20. So you see it's currently zoning is anticipated, and where it's being recommended to is also included. So there's no change needed to the future land use map. A use of this was anticipated in this general area. Under our LDR, section 23.236, we are required as staff to go through a level of analysis, and unless you need me to go into them, I can tell you that the proposal as presented has met the general criteria of these sections. The Historic Resource Preservation Board did meet on July 11th, and at that meeting they recommended unanimously that the City Commission approve this amendment as presented. And that's the presentation staff has for now. Thank you.
Okay. Now, does the applicant have a presentation?
Good evening, Commissioners, Madam Mayor. My name is Wes Blackman, AICP with CWB Associates, and I'm the agent for the property owner, Richard Zaborski. I'm working for the applicant, comprised of three gentlemen: Hal Fairbanks, who could not be here tonight, he's still in New Orleans, John Rennie, and Eric Greshner, and they're here today. John and Eric will say a few words about their background, involvement, and vision for the ultimate project when I'm through. They are the contract purchasers of the property. We agree with the conclusions in the staff report, which recommends approval of the rezoning request from MF20 to DT for 112 North O Street. The request also meets all the rezoning criteria in the comprehensive plan and land development regulations. The HRBB unanimously recommended approval at its July 11th meeting. The property is immediately adjacent to another property zoned DT to the south, known as 106 North O Street. It is under separate ownership and also under a contract to purchase by the applicant for this rezoning request. While we can provide details and answer questions about the two projects, tonight's focus really is about the merits of the rezoning request to DT. Both properties are within the Old Lucerne Historic District, which is on the National Register. 106 North O Street contains a contributing structure within the district, a former boarding house that has been vacant for 16 years. The intent of the applicant is to rehabilitate the existing structure at 106 North O Street and establish a bed and breakfast inn. For 112 North O Street, which is currently vacant, the team intends to build an extended stay hotel. Both uses would help to address the lack of quality lodging facilities in the downtown Lake Worth area. Rezoning of this property would provide an incentive for the rehabilitation of the 1916 dated historic structure to the lot to the south. The properties will be treated separately through the HRPB review and approval process. We've had multiple meetings with the staff, which have been productive and helpful. We plan to attend the Parrot Cove Neighborhood Association meeting in September. And they didn't meet during the summer. We could have done it earlier, but many people were out of town. And make a presentation and ask for input on the project. We submitted the certificate of appropriateness, conditional use, and site plan applications on August 7th, and the applications are currently being reviewed by the staff, and we should be heard at the October HRPB meeting, God willing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Did the client have presentations they were going to make? Welcome to our fair city.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My name is John Rennie. I live at 710 Sunset Road, West Palm Beach. I'm a professor at Florida Atlantic University in urban planning, and I'm here with Eric Reschner, my partner, who I've worked with for over a decade, and Hal Fairbanks, who couldn't be here tonight. He's back in New Orleans. I just wanted, as Wes had indicated, talk a little bit about the vision and how it came to be. Eric and I have been working on a project for a while in Denver, Colorado. We have a real estate development company that focuses on trying to create sustainable, walkable, transit-friendly developments because we believe that it's the future, and we believe that you can create a sustainable development that is good for the environment and also is good for the investors. And we were meeting in downtown Lake Worth because Eric lives in Boca and I live in West Palm Beach. And there's not too many great places to go have breakfast in between the two places. And we were having breakfast one day, and I parked in front of the subject property that you see in the photos. And I looked at it, and after we were done meeting for an hour or so, I said, Eric, you know, I saw this building. I think it has tremendous potential. The first house that I bought in New Orleans was built in the 1850s and looked almost as dilapidated as this one. And today, that house is fully restored in the Lower Garden District. My wife and I still own it, and we make decent rents out of the house, but we provide affordable accommodations for people who live in our property in New Orleans. And this property, our vision for this is to do much the same. I think Lake Worth has tremendous history that we want to honor and recognize and use the history as a path towards a better and brighter future. And in doing so, we're looking to create a project that is certainly more upscale than what you see here on the images, but you know, is also something that would be a desirable place to live and affordable to, you know, the masses of people that, you know, are looking for accommodations. And we think that with Hal Fairbanks, who has a 20-plus year experience as one of the leading historic preservation developers in the United States based out of New Orleans. He has built hotels all over the country and has done so building them in historic buildings. So when I saw the property, I said, we need to call Hal, who's a friend of mine. And he came over and he fell in love with Lake Worth. And so, this is our first project here, but we hope it goes well, and we hope that there will be others in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We do too.
Is that it for presentations, staff? Okay. Does staff have any questions for the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
All right.
Okay. Does any other member of the public wish to make a public comment?
So where is this?
Just go up to the microphone and state your name and address again, please.
Anna Tedesco.
Oh, you have to be sworn in.
Oh, sure thing.
Do you swear or affirm any testimony you're going to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Your
Anna
name?
Tedesco.
Your name and address.
Anna Tedesco, Maria Santa Croce, 35 South J Street, number 15. So this is 112 North O Street. Awesome. And so what it was zoned for, what was the previous zoning?
The previous zoning is currently residential. Not previous, the current zoning on the site is residential.
And it's trying to become a bed and breakfast?
No, the zoning is going to become downtown.
Downtown.
So, and I want to keep the board focused that tonight's discussion is purely on the zoning of the land, not the project itself.
So what are the dimensional, do you know what the dimensional, within zoning, dimensional or usage outside of zoning? Like just further into zoning, usage out and dimensional, lot coverage, height and all of that.
In general, the allowed uses in a downtown zoning district are much broader than those uses in the residential. We allow density, we allow lot coverage to increase greatly. So this rezoning would allow for higher intensity of use of the subject parcel.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Because it's quasi-judicial, I have to move on. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or the applicant at this point? It's not up for debate in this part of the process for us yet, but if you have questions for staff or the applicant themselves, now would be the time to ask those questions.
No questions.
No questions?
Comment.
Okay. Do you have any staff? Do you have any other further questions?
No, we're good, thank you.
All right, at this point, we're going to close the evidentiary part of the hearing. And at this point, commissioners, we can discuss the request. Is that
Move to
normal?
approve. Yes, Seconded.
Move seconded. Vice Mayor, did you have something to say?
Just a quick comment. This is my district. I love the idea of the future projects. I welcome you to the city of Lake Worth, and hopefully the project will move forward and you'll continue to do great things in the city of Lake Worth. Thank you.
I couldn't, when I saw the picture finally, I was, oh, I'm sorry. When I saw the picture finally, I was like, I know that house. I've been watching that house for years. And I thought, what a great building that is. And found a little bit out of the history, as these guys know around here. I'm kind of a history buff, and I love old historic properties. So I know just about every one of them in the entire city. So good luck with that. Thank you, Commissioner Robinson.
This project really does it all. Tourists are, I just love tourists.
And I just wanted to say one thing I wanted to mention too, because we've had situations in the past where staff, because of the basis of the rooms and whatnot, uses the word hotel, and sometimes people go off the rails on it. You know, in reference to, we had a conversation recently on the north end in a different type of neighborhood and whatever. I just want you to know, I'm looking forward to your speaking with the neighborhood association. I think the footprint of the plan is probably a good idea, but I'd have to see the breakdowns, and we'll, I'm sure, go through those processes together. But I'm glad to see it happening, and staff, I'm glad that you brought it to us. Thank you. Commissioner Hardy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Robinson, did I miss you on something?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just echo what's been said. I'm extremely pleased to see this request come in. I certainly appreciate the vision and the eye of the people involved. And I am very, very hopeful that good things will happen as a result of the proceedings here this evening. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Just real quick, the mayor had tapped on something that she had said hotel. I asked the same question. Why is it being called a hotel? In essence, I see it more as a B&B and staff's response. What did you tell me because of the way it's zoned? I mean, it's not really a hotel, but it is a hotel because it falls into the category.
There are two lots. The existing structure will become a bed and breakfast, and the vacant lot, should it be rezoned, would become more of a, if I can use the word, boutique hotel. So there would be two independent projects. They would work in harmony, but they are separate projects, should they both move forward.
Okay.
And I like, I'm sorry, I like the idea of calling it more of a boutique hotel, because like the mayor said, when you say hotel, people think of a big hotel with, boutique hotel and bed and breakfasts are more quaint and sustainable, walkable, and, more neighborhood friendly.
And that's why when we looked at the pictures, I wanted to emphasize that the surrounding neighborhood has a more residential feel. So even though we're recommending or looking at going to a downtown zoning, it's the intensity of use here which seems to be appropriate. Should move forward, appropriate for the neighborhood.
Thank you. We've got a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Just to be clear, Madam Mayor.
Hold on one second. Do I need to do anything else after this in reference to the ex parte? Okay. I mean, in reference to the, okay.
The motion is to move it to second. This is an ordinance. It takes 2 readings, so the motion is to approve it on first reading and move it to second.
Correct.
13. Okay.
So it'll come back as a second reading, and then any other further work that they do on it will come individually back to the historic resources planning and whatnot.
That's
And if
correct.
it needs to come our way, it does. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, we're moving on to new business. Mr. Pinsky, come on down. We're going to have a dialogue about the city's priorities and how they can be formed into legislative requests and anticipated 2019 issues. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yes, Madam Mayor, council members, Richard Pinsky, Ackerman, on behalf of the city of Lake Worth. I do have visual aids, but I also am providing courtesy copies, hard copies to each of the commissioners.
Can you run his?
Mr. Attorney, I don't know if I have one. Let's see how it works. I couldn't remember what I counted there.
Attorney, there is.
You're going to run the clicker yourself because we've got someone here that'll do it if you want.
Well, I actually had
You're good.
an ophthalmology appointment today, and I'm still.
They dilated your eyes?
Yes.
There you go.
So I didn't want to. I brought my sunglasses, but I thought that would be inappropriate for the presentation. So if I do have trouble, I
He thought he stopped by the
I will.
dispensary on the way over.
Hey, a little decorum here, city manager. Quiet on the dais.
There it goes. There it goes.
Okay, so the discussion, Madam Mayor, as you have highlighted, but really, tonight, we're not asking for any decisions to be made. This is a discussion and a dialogue, and I thought what I would do in this presentation, rather than tell you, I thought what we would do is let me first outline for you what the environment is going to be, what the context as you go forth to make your decisions on what you want to do as far as legislative requests. So when you do that, the first thing we have to do is determine what is going to be the direction of the 2019 legislative session. And so what everybody realizes, and if you don't, I've put it here to highlight it one more time, there's going to be a new governor. That means with the governor, there's 33 different state agencies, and one of the first things that any new executive officer does is appoint new secretaries as the head of each of those agencies. So whoever's the head of FDOT right now, transportation, who's ever head of the Department of Health, they may be there for a short time, but it won't be long before the new administration brings in their new agency heads, who in turn hires, there's the select exempt, the people that serve at the pleasure. And so then everything trickles down. So the new agency head's going to pick the new deputy, and that they're going to pick new division directors, and then pick new bureau chiefs. So things begin to change at the executive level. Likewise with cabinet members, the Department of Agriculture is going to change now. They sit over things like Office of Energy. So you'll have a new head of Office of Energy, new consumer department. They pick new heads.
Are we going to get anything done by January?
Starting all over.
That's a good point.
If you really want to know how it's done, I will be glad to go into that, but there is a methodology that they do. There is a new House Speaker, Representative Oliva from Miami, and he comes in this case, and will be picking very often, sometimes new committee staff directors. They'll be hiring new speaker staff, same thing with the Senate President, new Senate President who appoints all new people. So to try to gauge from the point of leadership, the last 8 years have been somewhat easier because we knew already what was going on, what was happening, who the governor, sort of the disposition. But now it's going to be far more difficult before we sit here as a collective body to say, I know, let's go for this or let's go for that, because we have to first wait and see, will there be a Republican governor? Will there be a Democrat governor? There's a lot of things that go into it. And then, of course, oh, see, I forgot to change the channel. Did it change? Oh, no, never mind. Back, got it. Okay. And then, like I said, there'll be new House Committee chairs, particularly a new Appropriations chair. And we may have some idea who the House Appropriations chair, and we do have some idea who the Senate Appropriations chair will be. but we don't know for sure, and then they bring their own agenda. So while we may say water projects are important, there could be an appropriations chair that thinks something else is different and will lower prioritize. So we learn where those directions are. There's also 40 new individuals being elected to the House and Senate that have never, I don't know if they've ever been to Tallahassee, but they've never been in the legislature before. So they have to learn where the bathroom is, and they have to learn where the chamber is. But out of 160 House and Senate members, when you talk about 40 brand new people, that's a dynamic in and of itself that begins to take shape. And there's 65 House and committee and subcommittee and joint committees. They all get reshuffled. Whoever was on an appropriation committee last year, in our case, we have Representative Al Jaquette, for example. He was on the very influential Transportation Economic Development Committee. He may or may not be on that committee again. There may be somebody brand new. We may not have anybody on that committee. So everything gets reshuffled. It's up to the prerogative of both the Speaker of the House as well as the Senate of the Chamber, Senate President of the Chamber. Next, we now, as we begin to drill down, we begin to look at the Palm Beach County delegation, the legislative delegation. Yes, Palm Beach County is predominantly a Democrat county, and so it's usually a little more difficult than a Republican-held legislature. What will make it a little more difficult this year is the fact that we have lost members. Some members are moving on, and so like the legislature, we ourselves are going to have new members. That means we're going to have some freshmen coming in that will not have the seniority. For instance, Representative Bill Hager is gone. So that's going to be replaced by a baby freshman who will not have the same degree of influence. So Senate District 25, Senator Negron has decided to retire early. He had 2 more years left on his term. So now we have to wait to see. We can't even talk to our senator right now, one of the senators in Palm Beach County, because we don't know if it's going to be Gail Harrell or Belinda Kaiser, and then who the general. It could be Robert Levy. And then same thing, District 30, Bobby Powell, our state senator currently, is being challenged. And then they're going to face a general, but we don't know who will win that election. State House District 81, which was Representative Joe Abruzzo, another senior member, was a senator, House member. That's a Democrat primary. And then State House District 82, Representative Magar, looks like she may be okay, but we don't know. District 85, turning the page, gotta remember to do that. Rick Roth is being challenged. He would be going into his sophomore year. And State House District 86, Matt Wilhite is being challenged in the primaries. I'm sorry, in the general. We'll see what happens there. And then State House District 87, David Silvers is also being challenged in a primary, and then also he has a general. We do keep Representative Al Jaquette, who was elected without opposition. And then, like I said, Bill Hager is moved on in life. He's term limited. And so we have a Democrat primary going on, and then there's a Republican primary going on as well. So we have no idea till November who's going to be the representative from that district. Senate District 90, Joe Casello, he will be the only second firefighter, fire rescue individual in the Florida legislature, joining Matt Wilhite, was elected without opposition, as was Emily Schlossberg. So that is another example of, we have to wait to see how the delegation shakes out, because for Lake Worth, that's the first individual we go to say, will you sponsor fill in the blank, whether it's an appropriation request or a substantive bill. Next, we have to worry about the upcoming dates that are going on. So yes, we have a primary election, but the League of Cities is going to be meeting for their first meeting in September to decide what is the League's agenda. And so we take our lead a little bit to see what the League is doing as well. So if we feel there's motivation going one way, we certainly want to take advantage of that leverage. October, now we're going to, for the first time, get to see what the state agencies are planning. October 12th, the League of Cities do their second meeting. And then by October 15th, we then get a glimpse of what the state agencies are going to be looking for. And again, it's something that we are going to want to be in concert with and not zig when they're zagging. Of course, then it shakes out November 6th with the general election. There is the state Florida League of Cities Legislative Conference in November. Then the legislature meets on November 20th for the first time, the brand new legislature. They're seated and during the organizational session. And then soon thereafter in December, the Speaker and the Senate President will announce committee chairs, announce committee makeups, and then committee meetings start usually in January. And then February, we get to see the governor's budget. So we'll have a short time between December, during the new governor's transition team, to February, when the governor submits his budget, to get our input to say, we're interested in this, we're interested in that. We'd want to make a presentation to the transition team and start to get our ideas in that are in concert with other folks here in Palm Beach County. Then, of course, the governor's budget, appropriations bill, has to put he or she will have to put an impact statement in, the analysis, and then all legislation. Then finally, March 5th, the gun goes off, session starts. It's a 60-day calendar session. Palm Beach County Day is March 6th. League of Cities, so I know a lot of us go up there for Palm Beach County Day, and then the League of Cities Legislative Action Days are 2 weeks later, March 26th and 27th. And then Happy Day, May 3rd, hopefully last day of session. And then we will all on our property will all be safe again. Okay, session issues. Again, looking back a little bit of what happened, we know kind of what is going to be coming our way yet again. We do know that CRAs will probably come under fire yet again, trying to get them to sunset and reauthorize on a regular basis. Travel authorization will likely come back again, trying to limit local governments. Local tax referenda, as you recall, that was the one where they wanted everything on the same date. Vacation rentals will certainly be back. Sober homes will certainly be back. Interruption of services. Representative Fine is coming back, and he is going to introduce that bill yet one more time that says if something happened and you were unable to deliver electricity, garbage, any other service, you cannot charge your residents for that time that they were dark. No service, no money. That was not my words; those were someone else's words. Disposable plastic bags, straws, again, trying to preempt that from being a local government option. And then, of course, as Councilman Andy Amoroso pointed out earlier, home rule versus preemption. And that goes for appropriations, water infrastructure, of course, and then climate change impacts. I'm going to be touching on one or two more of these as we go along. Then there is, of course, drilling down yet again to our particular issues. We have been successful on our transportation issues. Let me take this time for a brief commercial to say how thankful I am that you, for the last few years, you have engaged my services in Acrement. It's been an honor. I really love Lake Worth. I love almost all of you. All of you, yes.
Not so much me.
No, I love you all. It's a special, wonderful, unique community. And I know you're special as well. But we have been successful on transportation issues. We have gotten the $1.5 million. Third time is a charm.
We spent a lot of time together, so you can see where.
We also muscled our way in, and not all the time was Mayor Triolo able to attend an MPO or TPA, whatever they are now. Sometimes it was Commissioner Amoroso, sometimes it was Commissioner Maxwell, but we muscled our way in. We elbowed our way into the MPO, and we hung in there, much to the chagrin, and got $3 million. So total for transportation issues, 4.5. Yes, we can go back. I might suggest that I think they're going to look at us on a transportation issue and say, what? You haven't gotten enough? So for a community our size, I will tell you statewide, $4.5 million is a significant amount of money. Thank you. That's really, when I tell you about these MPO battles and the mayor has hung in there. So
Barely,
it may
by
be
my
that
teeth.
we want to focus on water and climate change issues. I know we have significant sea level rise issues that we are probably going to be facing and that we're going to want to harden. We certainly have municipal electric and renewable energy issues that we're going to want to focus on. Probably ocean current wave energy issues, and possibly home rule issues. These things are what you are going to now not lose sleep over, but noodle. Now you've got to be thinking about where are we going direction-wise. I know you have capital plans, you have issues. My job is to help you take all those things we just talked about, and they all go in the mixing bowl, and then come up with how we frame those as a narrative that we stand out in Tallahassee. I'm reserving the next page just as an example that I want you to please consider. I too was at the League of Cities conference. Commissioner Hardy, I didn't see you there, I'm sorry. I think on Saturday I went to the pool.
Yeah.
I went to the pool.
It's all good.
But I was thinking about home rule. Now, this will be my 34th legislative session in Tallahassee. I haven't been around as all 50 years for home rule, but every year I see the same home rule issues. Maybe the words change, but every year it's the same thing. And we all know the adage, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you expect a different result. So, I did talk to Mike Siddick, director of the league, and I said, Mike, I've been doing this a long time. And I said, I really think we need to once and for all put this issue to bed. And I propose, because when home rule, and I put local character because I don't know if anybody's ever been to Seaside up in the Panhandle. It is a very unique community. Lake Worth, you just adopted on first reading a proposed project. Those things are unique to Lake Worth. You were very careful of how the projects you want to approve because your character is unique and special. And Bartow, Immokalee, everybody has a different character. So you're not wanting home rule just because you want to rule. You want home rule to preserve your lifestyle and the character of your individual community. There are some things that you are obviously statewide that you can't touch. As much I would like to say it's ad valorem taxes, it may not be because that is a statewide issue. But there are plenty of issues that you can say to the Florida legislature, hands off. These are areas, local zoning, that you cannot touch. You cannot preempt sign ordinances. These are things you cannot touch because it impacts our local character. So I propose a constitutional amendment in the year 2020 on the ballot that will, for once and for all, preserve in the Florida Constitution and put a fence around it on areas that the Florida legislature cannot touch by the Constitution. You'll be protecting things like local government geography, your local unique character, and if this proposal goes to the Florida League of Cities, which I have every indication that the Senate that the league president and Mike Siddick would welcome it, to prepare that constitutional amendment language. I suggest that all local governments in the state of Florida, while they can't take a partisan position or an up or down issue, but they can certainly educate their residents about signing a petition to get such an amendment on the ballot. The number of cities and counties that we have in the state of Florida, they're all united on the same issue. It would be really nothing to get those signatures. And likewise, once it's on the ballot, educating all the residents about their unique local characters to support such a constitutional amendment, and then in 2020, it's done, and we don't have to go back to Tallahassee year after year fighting the same home rule issues over and over again. So my suggestion to the council would be to prepare a letter to the Palm Beach County League of Cities, ask them to adopt it as a resolution to send to the Florida League of Cities to entertain that issue. to get that adopted and ready for the 2020 ballot. So with that, Commissioners and Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions, comments, or any feedback. Oh, wait, best page on this one. Okay, now, that guy.
I did want to ask you why you're using your high school picture.
I just want to thank you for being in the trenches with us when we go there to battle. I know this last legislative session probably it wore me out. Going back
Why do
and
you
forth.
think I have gray hair?
Me too. Wait, you mean my exceptionally light blonde hair? That's getting blonder each day. Yeah, I just want to thank you. I know, and I want to thank my fellow commissioners too. We did a grandiose tag team this year, and it worked finally to our benefit of our community. And I'm very grateful to everybody involved and for everyone's support at home too. Vice Mayor.
Again, I wanted to thank you, and Richard participates in, most of the things. I see him at my board meetings and all over Palm Beach County, so I want to thank you for that.
I ride my bicycle to your store.
Absolutely. We see him on the weekend. He comes by to get juice. I just want to make sure that whatever we do, we include something that blankets the opioid issues, homelessness, and mental illness. And it can be within the home rule or within something else, but we just can't let our guard down. The Sober Home Task Force is still working on writing legislation and finding bits and pieces that help us tighten things up. We've done a lot of great work, and all across Palm Beach County, we've seen a difference, especially in Lake Worth. But again, I don't want to let our guard down. I want to make sure that it's always on the list. As priorities.
It seems to see that there's a little bit of things changing again. I'm starting to notice a little bit out there that we can't let our guard down, and that we have to continue on pushing for legislation that's going to help us protect our neighborhoods and our families.
Thank you.
And we're losing Representative Hager.
Yeah.
Our traditional sponsors that have been leading the charge are basically gone.
We have to get to know these people very well, and we need to spend time. This time around doesn't have to be during Palm Beach County days, but other times getting to know these new people and these new chair people and whatnot. I'll do whatever possible, and I'm sure that my fellow commissioners will too.
And I want to make sure that we have something to present this year.
Do I need to cook a meal for them to invite them all?
I love that idea.
Just like Palm Beach County League of Cities does and Florida League of Cities, we get together and we prepare a nice piece that's easy, bold, readable. The city of Lake Worth has been working on our brand, something that shows our brand, but something we can leave behind that is bold, and this is what Lake Worth is looking for. And also make it complement Palm Beach County League of Cities, Florida League of Cities. So we're kind of asking for something specific to Lake Worth, but we cross over with the same ask that can benefit us.
Commissioner Robinson?
I'm glad you're working for us in Tallahassee. How many other cities do you work in the same
Great
vein?
question. And there's one village of El Portal in North Miami, and they are a very unique community as well. But I'm glad you asked the question. We have one county, Miami-Dade County. I do a lot of their appropriations in water and DEP appropriation stuff on purpose. There are some firms that are great firms, but they amass many cities, and you certainly no city in the same county. So I've been doing this long enough. I'm very cognizant. I love Lake Worth. I like El Portal. But this, what you see is what you get.
In your work, do you get involved with general state issues like education or gun control, or the larger issues other than specific?
The statewide clients, I do represent 911 emergency dispatchers, and I'll bore you with what I do represent the only state association of renewable energy, Florida Solar Energy Industry Association, and I know I'm forgetting the Port of Palm Beach, and
don't forget to thank your wife.
Yeah,
Because when the Academy Awards are over, she'll remember you didn't mention it.
Is there a
So I don't do any issues that would touch gun control. And the education issues are usually on behalf of, like, we 2 sessions ago, we tried to do something for a local school.
charter
infrastructure
schools,
and whatnot.
anything, nothing?
No.
Okay. Do you have an Gulfstream Energy organization that you want to represent?
Yes, it's called
Lake Worth.
FAU Lake Worth Consortium.
There you go.
We've been working
Okay.
together with, yes,
Good.
Rich has been working with us through this whole process.
It's the
and
only
helping
place
us.
on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hardy?
I want you to work hard at it.
As soon as we formulate what that ask is,
When are we going to do that?
funny, we were just emailing the other day.
Yesterday.
Commissioner Robinson with his plan, his day planner ready. So when are we gonna do that? Can I have a date and a time? Thank you.
When do we get the money?
When do we get the money? I love that.
Thank you, Richard.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your continued defense of home rule, and I appreciate the fact that you'll be continuing to play defense on that for us. I think a lot of times it's the bad stuff that you keep from happening that's as good as the positive things that you get out of a legislative session. So that's very good. If homelessness is an issue, which Vice Mayor Amoroso brought up, and I think that it is, and I think housing instability is an issue as well, not just pure homelessness. I think we really need to talk about the Sadowski trust fund money, and for me that's a major issue, and I think it affects us. It prevents us from having quality, affordable housing, quality housing that people can afford. Let's put it that way. And so far, we're missing over $1 billion over the past almost 15 years that the legislature has taken out of it. And I would like to ask you what what do you think is likely to happen? I mean, do you see any change of position with the new speaker, new Senate president? Obviously, the governor's race will affect that. What is your outlook for that? Do you see a continued huge sweeping of the fund, just like last year and the year before that, and the year before that?
Okay, well, I don't right now, but for probably 10 or 12 years, I represented all the public housing authorities in the state of Florida. I know the issue very well. I have fought the anti-sweeping of the Sadowski Trust Fund for years. That is an issue, and we're capped right now around $275,000 that the legislature cannot touch, and that's the cap. But each year they pass additional policies that encroach upon that, mostly through their sale and ship money and divert it. So it has been a few years since we've had the full amount of money go towards affordable housing.
Right.
The next issue is once you get that allotment, the affordable housing developers, bless their heart, they play the proximity point game. And so when
talk to us about that,
when
please.
the dollars are handed out, they are competitively selected, and so you get a project, for instance. So everybody would submit a project to get the 9% tax credits, and are you close? How close are you to a bus stop?
Mm-hmm.
How close are you to a school?
Mm-hmm.
How close are you to a hospital?
Mm-hmm.
All the things, is there regular mass transit, public transit available?
Sure.
All these things go into the formula, what they call proximity points, and the ones with the highest points have a better chance of winning those coveted dollars.
Right.
Okay, so if you're an affordable housing developer, bless their heart, it doesn't matter where the community needs something. It matters where they can win. So they will be picking properties that benefit their selection process. The new governor, whoever that is really the place. They appoint the members to the Florida Housing Trust Fund. They can appoint members to the Palm Beach County Housing Trust Fund, which leverages and gets their own allotment. So it is it's a complex formula. But every year there is somebody else saying, well, we want to take those Sadowski monies in addition to what you're going to award, and we want $5 million of it to go to special workforce housing, or we want it to go to special veteran housing, or we want it to go, and there's, all these things are chipping away because the affordable housing developers, bless their heart, have projects going on that they want to be successful in getting those monies. So there's a feeding frenzy that goes on to get those dollars. Lake Worth, through the CRA, through whatever project, we can certainly put something together. I do know of communities that have leveraged certain projects in conjunction with economic development or certain initiatives to get certain dollars. They've done it out in the Glades area. They've done it in other communities to get special. They have a special rural fund now for only rural communities. So there's a lot of ways to pick at that money as in addition to protecting the legislature from cannibalizing it. So I can go on for a long time, and I'd be glad to meet with you offline and explain to you different ways that we can get around it.
Certainly, thank you.
Commissioner Maxwell?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Richard, for your presentation. I hope you didn't interpret Commissioner Hardy's comments as our asking for more affordable housing here in the city of Lake Worth, because that certainly is not the position of the city. I just want to clarify that.
Okay. Richard, thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Good.
Come back and
I
visit
don't
soon.
think we have time to go over any of the amendments, but when next trip, September, October, sometime before November, let's put it that way, we should go over the constitutional amendments.
All right, we're going to take a break.
Richard, we're all. There's some stuff about workforce housing that I think is very important.
Madam Mayor, we're live.
All right, everybody, would you please find your seats? Everyone, would you please find your seats? We're going to resume our city commission meeting. Quiet, please, in the chambers. We're resuming our commission meeting. Thank you. Everyone find your seats. We're going to resume with item 12B. City Attorney, when you find your seat, if you would please read the ordinance number 2018-12. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Ordinance number 2018-12 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 23, Land Development Regulations, amending Section 23.1-12, definitions of the Land Development Regulations, amending Article 5, Supplemental Regulations.
Is your microphone on?
It does sound. Testing.
Can you tap on it for me? Sure. Yes, it's on. Okay.
Okay.
You want me to start from the beginning or in the middle?
No, you can start from where
Okay.
you left off then.
Amending Article 5, Supplemental Regulations to create Section 23.5-10, prohibiting medical marijuana treatment center, dispensing facilities, and related uses within the boundaries of the city as authorized by Section 381.986 Florida statutes, providing legislative findings, providing for inclusion in the code, and moratorium, contingencies, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, okay. Vice Mayor?
Couple of questions. So originally, we were unable to ban medical marijuana in the city. What has changed?
Well, what has changed is you've always had the ability to adopt this ordinance, but you adopted a moratorium to consider and decide whether you wanted to ban future facilities. You know, you do have two facilities that essentially came in under the wire, and they're both opened up, and you heard the sheriff, captain, talking about them tonight. And at this point, the city has an option to, from this point forward, say no further facilities. Of course, in the future, you can always change your mind if you like. But once you say yes, for example, if you don't do this, and your moratorium expires in September, then at that point, they would be treated as any other pharmacy in the city and be able to locate wherever pharmacy could locate. And if you had questions about that, I think Mark and William would be able to tell you, where that would be within the city. So this is, since the moratorium is coming out in September, we wanted to give you the opportunity, if you wanted to ban them other than the two that exist, this is the opportunity to do that.
Okay. Again, for the record, this isn't the first time I've said this, but I support medical marijuana. I support the voters' right to choose. I support legalization of marijuana. However, I believe that 2 facilities in 7 square miles is enough. Home delivery all over South Florida. So we are not denying access to medical marijuana to anyone. Like the sheriff had said, both facilities have no issues, have had no issues. And I think that they bring a value to the citizens of Lake Worth, especially the ill people that are getting good benefit from medical marijuana. The other question I had, Glenn, was a while back we had somebody interested in doing a medical marijuana patch. Would this ordinance also stop that kind of facility?
Well, again, I believe so. The idea is any medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facility, and we try to define that as broadly as we could. Again, this is going to be an area of the law that keeps evolving. I mean, every week I'm reading articles, mostly from Western states, where this was first, permitted and then legalized, and so you're going to continue to have litigation over every nuance of these laws. So I can't give you guarantees, but that's the intent.
In reference to the Vice Mayor's question, if I might, I think that business that came before us they were discussing as a manufacturing. It wasn't a dispensary; it was a manufacturing plant.
So
if I'm not,
that's correct.
Is that different?
It was more of a zone.
So my understanding would be the state statute really regulates dispensaries, so if you will, a pharmacy. The current moratorium that you have in place bans everything related to medical marijuana, so put freeze on everything. This ordinance would ban dispensaries, but would not be against the manufacturing of medical marijuana.
products.
Products here in the city.
You want to follow up? That's why I wanted to
Yeah,
clarify that.
that's why I was trying to get clarity on that, because, you know, we haven't had that conversation here on the dais. I don't know, again, I don't know that I necessarily want that on my Dixie Highway corridor, you know, in the Park of Commerce, maybe, for manufacturing. So I think we need to have that conversation before the moratorium is lifted. So we have a clear, and like you said, it's continuously morphing. That was something that, and from what I understood, it was the manufacturing of something almost like a Bengay patch, but it would be medical marijuana. Again, that's something that, you know, like the nicotine patches, they go right into the system, and it's, you know, I would be concerned about that and want to make sure we have clarity on that.
So we're clear, our current use table would allow for the manufacturing of pharmaceutical products, which would fall under only in the Park of Commerce. So along Dixie Highway, even in the artisanal industrial zone, that use is not allowed. So should just, we'll say, should we move forward in a direction that would say we ban any additional medical marijuana pharmacies, if we use that term? My fault. The manufacturing, any industrial uses related to medical marijuana manufacturing could only be currently located out in the Park of Commerce.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're very clear on that, because from what I understood, that gentleman was looking, what was he was talking about looking for a waiver or a...
They want to be in South Dixie. We don't allow a use waiver. It would be a more difficult process of actually trying to get that land rezoned to an industrial use that would be allowed there. And I don't see a path forward for that being possible right now.
Okay, because we're talking about bringing some of those decisions back to the dais, so staff didn't have that burden, and I just want to make sure it's something that cannot be staff approved or changed without the dais knowing and having some input, because again, we're elected and we need to make sure that we stand behind staff's recommendations and,
Yes.
and know exactly what's going on.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yes, thank you. The first thing I'll do is I'll talk about what this ordinance is not about, right? What this ordinance is not about is banning entirely or absolutely the sale of medical marijuana in the city, okay? What it is about is preventing the proliferation of medical marijuana dispensaries within the city. That's a different topic. As the city attorney mentioned, there are 2 dispensaries that are already up and operating. So I just want to make clear to people who are concerned that we're taking something away. We're absolutely not. Okay, what we're doing is preventing the future growth potentially, and we'll have to talk about this and vote about it. But what this is about us preventing the future growth of these businesses within the city. That's number one. So yeah, people within the city have access to this. They have access to it 3 different ways. There are 2 different locations in the city, and then there's also home delivery. So like, you don't have to go anywhere to get medical marijuana if that's the medicine that you need. So that's you know, access is not an issue. Okay, and really that's what it should be about, right? Anything else is just kind of talk, and in my opinion, not too important. The other thing is, can you talk about where we do allow pharmacies? And just going beyond mentioning the zoning districts, but if you can give us an idea of the locations. And I have a special question. We changed part of the code to allow pharmacies internal to medical offices. And if you could talk about that. And I have a third question after that's done.
So I will say thank you guys. You're leapfrogging through, but you're actually covering almost my entire presentation. So well done. Here's the districts where pharmacies are currently allowed, and I have the map next to show you geographically where they are. But we currently allow pharmacies in the mixed-use Dixie Highway, mixed-use West, TOD East, TOD West. And with the recent amendment we did, and this is what Commissioner Hardy is discussing now, is we do allow pharmacies as an accessory use in the downtown district. So pharmacies as a principal use are not allowed. Pharmacies as an accessory use are allowed in a downtown district as long as that property does not front on Lake Lucerne. So that is a very tightly defined area.
May I ask, is there not another stipulation there that the pharmacy cannot be accessible from the outside?
There's a whole list of conditions in that. They can't be separately advertised. It can't be accessed from the outside. The hours can't be different than that of the principal use. So you can't have like I'll say a building or a urgent care and have a drive-up window that's open 24/7 for the pharmacy. It has to be contained within the building, accessed only from within the building, and the same hours or less than that of the principal use.
May I ask another follow-up to this particular issue? Business licenses, are 2 separate business licenses required if the pharmacy is of an accessory use?
The pharmacy would be licensed separately, and the pharmacist would have to carry a business license. So it would be licensed separately under a business license than just the urgent care.
Okay, I have a follow-up question for after, when he's.
You have more presentation?
Well,
you wanted to look at the geographic. This map we had the GIS department pull together. The colored areas on the zoning districts where pharmacies are allowed. If we would to allow any additional medical marijuana facilities here, our current zoning says the current state legislation says you can't regulate them any differently than you do pharmacies. So this is where pharmacies are allowed in the colored zones, and the state legislature also says that a medical marijuana dispensing facility can't be located any closer than 500 feet to a school.
Which they didn't do initially, which is why we had our situation on the north side of town.
That is correct. And that was in 2017 in Amendment 8A. But the current ordinance that we have in place that would regulate these equal to a pharmacy says that these things can't be any closer than 1,000 feet together. So what this map shows you is the 500-foot school radius and 1,000-foot pharmacy buffer that would meet the state law. So if we were to say we're okay having additional ones, the colored parcels that are not encumbered by a pink circle, if you will, are the only areas in the city where this additional thing could be allowed. But I'm not advocating that we get more. I'm just saying if we decide to allow the dispensaries currently, this is the only place they'd be allowed.
Follow up to that, we have a 1,000-foot buffer, right? So
between pharmacies, correct.
Right, but between pharmacies. So basically, let's say, should a medical marijuana dispensary, which is regulated like a pharmacy, go into one of the areas, for example, on Dixie Highway, pretty much anywhere they go, they will create another 1,000-foot buffer that's adding to what already exists. So that basically, if another medical marijuana facility goes where there is
say one goes up in here, for example,
it will basically preclude future marijuana facilities going there within 1,000 feet.
Correct.
Okay. So those pink bubbles would get larger and eventually crowd out Dixie Highway.
So
in
like
some
this
cases,
area,
if there were one pharmacy located, like in between.
Like in here, you
Lake
couldn't
and
put
10th.
anything in here. Between
Right.
schools and existing pharmacies, you couldn't do anything. Down here, it's South Dixie is almost completely covered except for this tail end down here. Up here, maybe get one more in, that'd be about it.
Right. Right.
But I would like to point out that the Florida League of Cities did hire the marijuana policy group to do some analysis of what the impact of these facilities is. And it's a large white paper. If any of the commission would like to have it, we have it. We can send it out to you. But what they recommended was, if you are going to allow them, the optimal rate is one dispensary per every, I'll say 67,000 residents, but no more than one per every 50. So with R2 and our current population less than 50,000, we meet or exceed those recommended things already. So going to what Commissioner Amoroso was saying, we have two. R2 would be more than even what the marijuana policy group recommends for an intensity. Now, let me be clear. Pharmacies don't honor municipal boundaries. So are R2 facilities serving an area of 67,000 per? We didn't analyze out that far, but I think that's probably a fair way to look at it. The county is now allowing medical marijuana pharmacies. There are other communities here in the area. So if we say we have enough and 2 is all we need within the city limits, that may be a fair statement to say.
All right, quickly, and then I'd like to give someone else a chance to ask questions.
Okay, my last question, well, first of all, on what was the optimal rate based? Was it based on, what had been successful in other cities, or was it just like something that they chose?
They actually did analysis looking and one of the states they looked at was the state of California. And in looking at California, which allowed also recreational use, but the study focused purely on the use of medical marijuana, they said that an overproliferation doesn't benefit the community at all. But having access to it and having reasonable access to it didn't have a strong negative impact as long as they were reasonably spaced. So I don't know if that's your question, but yes, it did look at the crime impacts, the social impacts, the fiscal impacts of these communities, and that's what they came up with.
Commissioner Maxwell.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak about the distance. Could you go back to the chart showing the distance restrictions? The legislature came back in and said, okay, let's make it a 500-foot school buffer. Do we not have the option to increase that?
Oh, absolutely. We can't be. We can make a 1,000, 1,500-foot buffer between schools and other pharmacies if we wanted to.
And the same question I want to ask about the pharmacy buffer. Do we have the latitude to increase that from beyond 1,000 feet?
That's entirely within our jurisdiction.
Then why don't we do that?
Yes.
Why don't we just map out the entire city? Make it 15 or 2,000 feet. Either direction. Why?
The attorney,
Why not?
Well, obviously the ordinance that you're passing now accomplishes that, but if you also, on a broader scale, believe that pharmacies in general should be more than 500 feet, or at least these type should be more than 500 feet, you could always increase those buffers as well. This process is designed to make sure you have the opportunity to prohibit it before the moratorium ends. Your process would be more of a belt and suspender process, where you're now going to, if the legislature makes other amendments, you have another level of protection. So that may be a path, if the commission wants to go down that path, to direct staff to come back and bring that back, at some point in the future.
Are you suggesting there would be a bad move to increase those? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad move at all.
Okay.
I'm just saying it would take time. This can get you started right away. I'm assuming that's going to require some kind of a staff analysis and bringing back an ordinance for first reading probably in a month or so from now, in which we might miss that September deadline for when our moratorium expires.
If I may say so, what more is there to analyze? We know how many existing pharmacies we have. We know how many existing medical marijuana facilities we have. We know where they are. They're clearly shown on the map here. It's just a matter of increasing the distance between what do you call it, the buffers.
The level of analysis would not be difficult at all. It's more what the attorney is talking about is the due process part of. It'd be a new ordinance. The new ordinance would have to be drafted, taken to Planning and Zoning and HRPB board before it's brought here. The current ordinance before you is looking only at the medical marijuana dispensaries. A change in the LDR code would be a new ordinance that would have to be brought through. So not a lot of analysis per se. It would just take time to have it
go through the process,
drafted and go through the processing and bring it back to you. That's all.
All right, can we focus on the ordinance in front of us, or is there any issue? Want to continue?
No, not at all, Madam.
Yes, Commissioner.
My move would be exactly what Commissioner Maxwell said. I would like to see staff come back with a buffer of maybe around 2,000 feet, maybe 2,500 feet. Something that would basically make it very difficult to do east of I-95, but I think perhaps west of I-95 there might be space for one. I don't oppose one west of I-95. It's a very different environment and community, knowing from experience, and that would be my idea. Perhaps after we get one, we can revisit the idea of a ban at that point.
I want to be painfully clear on this, that the buffer would keep an additional Walgreens or another CVS from moving into the city as well. Is that
yes?
Is that the goal? Is that the goal?
I am 100% okay with only having 3 Walgreens.
I see. That's something I would prefer to discuss in future. And what if one closed this down and then another movement?
Yeah, it would then say that the new one coming in would have to meet the current regulations, which means it may be kicked out of the city.
Correct. I thought we were discussing dispensaries. I didn't think we were discussing traditional pharmacies. My concern was mainly over pharmacies by the classification of pharmacy, meaning that it can include the dispensary. That's why I'll support completely banning any further dispensaries from the city. I'm totally supportive of that at this point. If you look at the issue of this is just a completely separate note. Look at the issue of the tattoo parlor, right? We had that, and then it was changed, and then all of a sudden, we didn't know it was changed because there was no ban of tattoo parlors in the town, and now we changed it and did it again. You could revisit it any other time if any of those conversations come up. I'm talking about the classification, people saying, well, what if we need another one or down the road or whatever? That can be addressed at a later time. At this time, I agree with the Vice Mayor. 2 is more than enough. Self-delivery is more than enough. I wasn't ready to discuss a ban on regular traditional pharmacies, but I mean, if you want to have that, if you want to do that, if you guys want to have that conversation, I would see what the consensus was from, obviously we have 2 here. I'm not up for that conversation. Are you up for, no, thank you. Are you up for that discussion?
No.
Are you up for this discussion, Vice Mayor?
In a strange, I'm just going to say in a strange, not strange logic, but in the logic of we're actually, if we don't allow them in Lake Worth, they're going to be somewhere else, which is going to provide more access.
Correct.
Let's
Commissioner Amoroso,
call the vote then.
Are you up for just continuing further or deciding further on whether or not you want to discuss pharmacies in general or just dispensaries?
I don't have a no, tonight we're talking about dispensaries.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
I have no problem with if someone bringing that an additional, but I think Commissioner Robinson called for the vote.
Well, he would need a second.
Did you call for the vote?
Yes.
Okay, then I need a second for that.
Second.
A second for that. Okay, we've got a vote on the floor. We've got a motion and a second. We need public comment now on, well, we don't need public comment. The vote can't be called until we have public comment. Yep, so the vote cannot be called. We're gonna go to Todd Townsend, followed by Peg.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I believe that the motion was to call the question.
to call the question, correct? And the
Okay.
question, we got
You
a
have to
second
vote on
it.
that.
We voted on it.
No, we didn't.
No, you had the motion was,
Oh, okay, I'm
to
sorry.
call the question was made by Commissioner
We've got a call on the question
Robinson,
in a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so motion passes 3 to 2.
No, you don't have 60, you don't have 2/3 majority.
Thank you.
Say 2.
Hold on.
2/3 is 66%.
How do you get 2/3? How do you get, do we have half a person?
You have to get 4.
It's not a supermajority.
Well, a supermajority is not.
Supermajority is 4.
Yes, you can.
A supermajority is 4.
I'd Google it.
Yeah, I have to look that one up. I don't remember the 2/3.
In the meantime, why don't we call for public comment? That's a perfect time.
You can't do that. We're in the middle of calling question.
Okay, then we'll have to take a break. Then
I'll
we'll
withdraw the
staff-
You can't
question.
take a break.
All right, go ahead. Good man.
I'll withdraw the motion.
To call the question?
Yes.
You withdraw the motion second?
We're gonna
There
be-
we go. Oh, I just love this. Todd Townsend, followed by Peggy Fisher. There you go. Peggy Fisher, followed by Anna Maria.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North 8th Street. How many of you have been in Knox Medical or Cureleaf?
Excuse me?
How many of you have been in either one of the current medical marijuana dispensaries? Okay. How many of you heard your own captain say,
Why are we having a dialogue back and forth?
I can make questions as part of my public
You don't have
comment.
to answer. Mhm.
You
But
don't have
expect
to
an
answer. You all heard your own captain say there wasn't an issue. You all have an issue parked in front of Walgreens at 10th Avenue, 24/7 of drug transactions going on in that parking lot. Round the clock. I've sat next to it, I've looked at them, I've called it in, and you all are worried about putting another dispensary that has, of the 2 that are here, have caused you no issues in this city. What are you afraid of? This is a business. Look at it as a business that brings tax revenue to this city. And it does serve many, many more people than within the boundaries of this city, because I know they deliver as far south as Miami. I know that personally. Not that they delivered to me, but I have someone in my family who has delivered to Miami for them, which is my daughter. She doesn't live in Lake Worth anymore, so I can freely speak. I think you all are being very, very short-sighted. Your own Planning and Zoning and Historic Resources Preservation Board recommended denying this ordinance. because they saw this is a business. It's not a drug house. It's not all the sober homes we have on Federal Highway. This is a business with business licenses and revenues to the city. And let's address prostitution, crime, shooting, drug transactions before we worry about another business.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
We're gonna finish the public comment. We don't usually stop in between for that, but you're first to comment as soon as we're done.
I'll be there.
Anna Maria, followed by Tammy Panza.
I wore my hippie skirt. Okay. 404 South C Street. I'm totally for them being here. I think if you've ever lived with someone who was very ill and needed this service, you would understand that the pain they go through. So I like the idea of them being here. And the positive thing is, look at those buildings. They're beautiful. They've actually improved part of the area. So hopefully this brings in more business in terms of neighbors that will also try to be as nice as these buildings are. And I have no problem with them at all. Okay?
Thank you. Tammy Panza, followed by Anastasia. Sorry.
Hi there, Tammy Panza, 160 North L. I posted about this item on my Facebook page, which has almost 15,000 people on it. It was probably my biggest post of the day. I looked up the agenda item. I saw that the P&Z board voted 5-2 to not have this ordinance go into effect. I think you guys are scared that marijuana will take over the city. Simple economics will prohibit marijuana from taking over the city. I have no idea why you want to prohibit or have a moratorium on more dispensaries. Like Anna Maria said, the buildings look wonderful. There's been absolutely no trouble with any of those buildings. The buildings have high security. They deal with a lot of cash. Their security is going to be 3 to 4 times what everything else is. You guys made a big error with prohibiting tattoo parlors, I think, and you're also making a big error with trying to prohibit marijuana dispensaries in the city. 70% of Florida who actually got out to vote voted in marijuana. I don't see why Lake Worth should not continue to promote marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna?
Just 35 South J Street, number 15, Lake Worth, Florida, 33460. You know, again, it's, you know, just I'm more thinking about the, you know, the cement for the roads rather than asphalt and bitumen again. You know, just the 1.5 million that came in from the government. You know, just as the last guy said. Also, you know, just if we're doing this, you know, you've got to, you know, just as far as, you know, types of people, you know, some people like, you know, who, you know, smokers who, you know, marijuana users who raise children or whatever, you have to be on, I mean, just, you know, if we're talking about psychology and mental health at first, you have to be talking about people, you know, people who control, like people who are really in 2 senses of control, you know, although, you know, the axes in mental health, you know, the axes overall, you know, people, you know, just, you know, if we're talking about parts of mental health, you know, parts of health insurance, we have to be on parts of health insurance. If, you know, if you're talking about legalizing marijuana, you also have to talk about cement for the roads. If you're talking about the axes of mental health and dual diagnosis, that too is a dual diagnosis. Some marijuana smokers are extremely control oriented, you know, extremely control, like, you know, that you might be on I'm sorry, what was that?
What, really?
I don't even know, you know what that, you know, where, you know, just,
you
know,
just talk to me, thank you. Yeah,
okay.
quiet in the chambers,
so
please.
if you're talking about parts of health, you know, you know, you can't have, you know, no parts of mental health, you know, you can't have that without, you know, and the city with medical marijuana, that would not make much sense. and then the 1.5 million for the cement on the roads, etc., rather than tar and bitumen and asphalt and all of that.
Thank you. Just before I turn the floor over to Commissioner Maxwell, who's been waiting very patiently, I'm just confused on one item. Why are we talking about the ban of dispensaries in the city? We have dispensaries in the city. We have 2 dispensaries in a city that's a little over 6.5 square miles, one on the north side, one on the south side, and also with home delivery to anywhere in the entire area. So I would like to move the conversation off of the ban of dispensaries in the city. The city, we have 2 dispensaries open, so I just wanted to clarify for anyone at home that's confused. We already have 2 open and working dispensaries as well as home delivery in the city. So the city isn't banning dispensaries or medicinal marijuana in any shape or form. I've stated this publicly before. I know firsthand people in health needs that have gone through it, from my nephew to my brother who died of cancer to my mother who died of cancer and before dying of melanoma had pancreatic cancer before that, to my father who's been through 4 different kinds of cancer and a husband with MS. I get it. I live it. It's part of my life. I have no problem with medicinal marijuana whatsoever, and I support it 110%. My concern, and I want to state this publicly so everyone understands my concern, is that we missed the boat when we jumped on it. We supported it wholeheartedly as a community, and the state didn't put the right regulations in place so that we would have a fight to deal with this whole thing with the schools. And it put us in a very tricky predicament, knowing that a decision that we make right now can be changed down the road. I don't know as this moves on or whatever. I'd rather err on the side of caution in regards to we have them in place. They're not going anywhere. We have dispensaries that are actively doing a great job in the community. And I'll tell you something, I don't see any crime around those. I see a lot of retired citizens who are getting ease and comfort from their diseases and old age pains and things. And I see a lot of senior citizens waiting in a line outside of those facilities. Not opioid addicted people or crime ridden people or whatever. And I'm very supportive of it. I just don't want to make the same mistake that we did last time, jumping on something and not giving us a leg to stand on so that we can make, as the state adjusts some of its rules and new things come into play, I want to make sure that we have the ability to make decisions on it. That's my concern about it. Am I supportive of it? I voted for it. I stand by and appreciate the people's choice in voting for it. And we're not denying medicinal marijuana to anybody in the community. We have facilities available and accessible to everyone within our city and beyond. So I want to make sure that I stated that for the record. Commissioner Maxwell.
Thank you. I'm not even sure how I'm going to start or how I'm going to get through this, but I was approached several years ago by members of different businesses that were looking to get into this industry. And I had very lengthy conversations, at which point they told me there was a finite number of Floridians that would benefit from the use of medical marijuana. When I say a finite number, I'm talking about a few 100,000 people. Well, you don't need medical marijuana dispensaries by the gross in every municipality in 400 plus cities in the state of Florida if you have a finite number of people that could benefit from the medicine. Now, since the 70% of the people spoke and said they wanted medical marijuana, they didn't say that you had to have a bushel basket full of medical marijuana units in every one of your cities. So now what do we see when we drive up and down that 95? Everybody's going to see the medical marijuana signs, because now we're all going to be, we're all ill now. We're all going to have an injury that's going to require medical marijuana because they're marketing their business. They're marketing their business. Okay, we have seen the history of medical marijuana's implementation in various states of the West, and we've also seen the implementation of recreational marijuana. And how's that working out for everybody? Okay, we have enough issues in this city. We've got our 2 dispensaries. Nobody's going to be denied access. One of our residents told about a delivery to Miami. Well, I can assure you there are other medical marijuana dispensaries between here and Miami, so it was a choice that was made for them to purchase from here in the city of Lake Worth. Okay, now the question that I raised about expanding the distance requirements was the state itself, as you said so eloquently, Madam Mayor, didn't do their homework. Well, if these are such wonderful operations, and I'm being facetious here when I say this, why did they find it necessary to create a 500-foot barrier around schools? if there's nothing wrong, if they're perfectly innocent, these dispensaries, and why did they, in their infinite wisdom, say, well, why don't we put these marijuana dispensaries in Walgreens? So let's cut it out and call it what it is. They're two entirely different industries. They serve entirely different purposes. Okay, I personally think we don't need more than 3 regular large box, what do you call them? Drugstores here in the city.
Yeah.
You know, and to your question, if one goes under, well, then maybe there wasn't a need for it to begin with. So I don't see what the big deal here is about just protecting ourselves. Now, I'm under the impression that the way this ordinance reads, that somebody could come back in the future and want to put a medical marijuana facility in one of those areas that's not in the pink box. Is that correct?
No, the way the ordinance is written right now, what's before you is to, and Madam Mayor, I'll say ban any additional.
Additional, yes, I'm
pharmacies.
sorry.
We
Thank
have
you.
2. The 2 would be allowed to remain as existing non-conforming uses.
Okay.
So it would ban any additional pharmacies. So what the ordinance before you right now would say no more. We provided the map. Should the commission say no, we would like to have them. These are the options of where they could be located currently by zoning. So I'm just trying to present both sides of the case so we understand where we are. But if the ordinance passes today, it would be a ban for any additional medical marijuana dispensing facilities in the city.
Under no circumstance could another one be opened in this city. Is that correct?
Under this ordinance, that'd be correct.
Then I withdraw my comments about the distance requirements.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is, look, I was one of the 70% of Floridians who voted for medical marijuana in the state of Florida. Okay. And I do not believe, well, I'll put it this way, having this conversation is not an affront to the expressed will of the voters when they voted for this in 2016. Okay, having this conversation is a part of our jobs, right? It's one of the things that we have to do as elected officials. It's our job to act with some, far-seeing impulse so that we can try and figure out what we want our city to be like. So the conversation isn't the problem. Now, I wish that we were having a conversation of a more nuanced nature. I wish that we were presented with more options rather than just a ban. I wish that we were presented with a suite of options that we could potentially vote on this evening. For example, extending the buffers on pharmacy, extending the buffers on schools and things like that. So, my position is, look, I am okay with extending the buffer for pharmacies. Okay. I am not okay with banning any additional medical marijuana facilities, full stop. My position is, look, I think 2, maybe 3 on Dixie Highway is, enough. And I think when you look at the buffers that are already in place, that would take care of most of Dixie Highway. I think there might be some areas where, one might be able to fit in. So perhaps we should look at extending the buffers for pharmacies. I think on the west side of the city, which is an entirely different area west of I-95, I think it should still be allowed. And as far as how I feel about pharmacies, yeah, look, I could really do. I could care less that another Walgreens can't locate here. I mean, we have them on like almost every gateway into the city, right? There's like 6, there's 10th. There's one on Lake
Across the street.
Right across the street here. We need no more of them. And so if this is if by some backdoor means we disallow additional Walgreens and CVS's, then that's yet another good thing that will come from extending the buffers. And as far as the schools go, it's very interesting. There's a lady who came here from the Academy of Positive Learning, right? And she came here and she railed against our refusal to act to prevent or to in some way help her advocate for not having the pharmacy where it is on 17th Avenue or whatever it is. It's pretty far north along Dixie Highway. And what's crazy to me, if you look at the pharmacy, you can't tell what it is, right? If you look at the medical marijuana dispensary, you would have no idea what it is. And the fact is, she probably alerted her students through her advocacy of the existence of the place when they would have absolutely no idea that it existed, right? So I think, frankly, like a lot of the hubbub about this is I don't know. It's like a professor who says his pet peeve is students coming in late. and then when a late student comes in, he does more disrupting the class by berating the student. So, I don't know. I mean, we should just, in my opinion, not vote for what's before us. I think we should perhaps consider extending the moratorium. I don't know if we can do that on the spot here, but I think we should certainly consider it to make sure that we can do the right thing within the amount of time that we have to do it. I mean, we basically have until September. It would have been great if we had this conversation before today, right? Because I feel like we're kind of under the gun. And yeah, so I can't vote for what's in front of me. I can vote for something else that would limit the proliferation of medical marijuanas on the east side of the city, east of I-95, but would preserve the ability to put medical marijuana dispensaries west of I-95 with a buffer that is larger than it currently exists. So those are my comments.
Commissioner Robinson?
Can I call a question now?
Yes, you may. You've got to call the question. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of calling the question state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
You're an aye?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously. We've got a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance number 2018-14. City Attorney, would you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Ordinance number 2018-14 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 12 Health and Sanitation by reorganizing all solid waste provisions under Article 1, updating the definitions, establishing a uniform rate classification for mobile home parks, adding provisions for residential dual stream recycling collection, making other minor amendments to the solid waste provisions, and reorganizing the remainder of Chapter 12, finding for severability, the repeal of laws of conflict, codification, and an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any public comment
No,
cards?
Madam Mayor.
Seeing there are none, all those in favor state
Aye.
so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item D, appeal to the City Commission of protest against the intent to award the debris removal and haul-off emergency services request for proposals. City Attorney?
Madam Mayor, this item is before you in that the city has, the next item, an intent to award the, I'm calling the backup debris removal and hauling services to 4 other firms. You have an existing provider. The city went out for proposals, received, I believe, 13 proposals. Devlin Demolition and Site was ranked number 12 of those 13 proposals by the committee. So.
Can you move your microphone up? It's been really difficult to hear.
Sure.
this one.
Okay,
Thank
is
you.
that better?
Yes.
Okay, so and what we have is Devlin Site has exercised their right to follow a protest and has appealed to the commission the fact that they were not one of the top 4 selected, and they specifically were focusing on a firm called ATL Disaster Recovery, and so they have a right to present to the commission their reasons why they think that the commission should not go forward with the award and should uphold their protest.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Is there documentation for us to receive first? Is that for us?
Looks like it's being handed out.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I announce that we're receiving documentation. Commissioner Maxwell?
This is not a quasi-judicial
It
proceeding.
is not, but they have a right to make a presentation. You have no obligation to engage in conversation. It's their opportunity to present their side of why they believe they should be awarded one of these bids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
I want to thank the commission and board for taking time to hear us.
Can you
And,
state your name for the record, please?
Carl DeVoe, 11240 Brandywine Lake Way, 1302 Wingfield. I'd like to thank the commission for taking the time to listen to the plan brought forth in front of you tonight. I'm gonna get right to the point. In front of you, I obviously some documentations here concerning the evaluations. Now we must keep an open mind that evaluation is only one's interpretations of the papers of the instruments that is in front of them. But according to the information that I've given you here tonight, on this sheet right here, this is a instrument of the city of Lake Worth doing 2005, 2006, we performed 3 hurricane cleanups for the city of Lake Worth. We wasn't fortunate to go out like our competitors that had done. We worked for the city of Lake Worth. We were, and when Francis struck, Charlie had struck on the West Coast before, and we were going to go there. But Francis struck the city of Lake Worth, and we went. We approached the director of the public works, and they gave us work here. Then Jane struck, right? Then Katrina struck in New Orleans, and we were scheduled to go there. My brother Edmund ran with the National Guard from Baton Rouge, from New Orleans to Baton Rouge for 7 nights. We had a contract in New Orleans, but Wilma struck. The church on A Street was blown into the streets. The streets were clogged up. The city commission had awarded us the contract to clean up for another year, so we had to honor that. Now, we're not going to badmouth any of our competitors. That's not what we're here to do. But we shouldn't be penalized or looked down for working for the city of Lake Worth. And this is what has happened. Our resume may not be as glamorous as those who submitted it, who submitted theirs, but for 3 consecutive years, we worked for you guys. And when you ask us, did we perform? Your own letter of recommendation here, which is right here, I've got it all highlighted. It clearly says Devlin was placed in the heaviest part of the city. It clearly says they immediately responded. It clearly says we validated the requirement by FEMA. It clearly says we will use them again if need be. Now, this is our resume to people that we apply for jobs for, because hurricanes don't come around every day. They only come around every now and then. But 3 came back to back. We worked for you guys, and the people who are doing the evaluation, they denied the facts. If you go to Mr. Brown's, it's right here, evaluation, he's right in line with everybody else. But if you go to Mr. Yeager and Mr. Fields, they weren't even here in 2005, 2004, 2006. They go by my yard. They see 14, 25-yard trucks. They see 6 tractor trailers. All that equipment is used for disaster recovery. If you go behind the paper right here, behind this paper right here, you'll see documentations from Philip and Jordan. You see City of Boynton for work that we did last year. But to see the Parlor Mills, okay? The people who are now, like I said before, the people who are doing the analysis weren't even here in 2005, 2004, and 2006. But we worked for you all. You guys gave us great recommendation, but these guys gave us poor scores. I mean, I can only submit to whom I work for. I can assure you that no one in that package had one of these in their package. I can assure you that because we work for you all. And if you go to Mr. Fields, Mr. Fields, evidence of performance. This paper right here, Mr. Fields. Brandon Shields. I'm sorry. Evidence of performance. He gave out of a 20. I got my glasses here. I don't want to say the wrong thing. To Devlin, he gave a 12. But the paper says we were in the most heaviest part of the city, and we performed on time. We did everything they asked us. We worked with staff. Then it came to evidence specifically on a timeline. The paper clearly said we mobilized immediately. I mean, it doesn't balance. You are the client whom we worked for 3 hurricanes. You can't, we don't expect a hurricane to come around every all the time, but these are the facts. Like I said, evaluations, hard facts. You can't deny hard facts. On the next one, okay, which is Mr. Yeager. All right, evidence of performance, evidence of contractual skill for Devlin. He gave a 15. The paper said something different. Evidence of ability to timeline. Your paper says something different. It doesn't balance. So here we are. I mean, I can only say what we did for you all, because this is what we did. I mean, some of you was here during 2005 and 2006. So, you know, when you Mr. Brown, he was here on the backside of Wilbur. He gave great scores. He know what our capabilities are. I mean, this is all I'm saying. I'm not here to badmouth any competitors. I'm sure these people has all the great qualifications. But in the same token, we're here in the city. Now I've got that's and I appreciate you giving me the time. Now I've got Mr. Potts who has to go. We have to find out why these scores are where they are. So I'm going to give Mr. Potts time to speak, and maybe they can shed a little light on why it was done. Thank you again. Appreciate it. God bless you all.
Thank you. And what is your reference to each other, and how do you know each other? I'm sorry, I don't.
Wesley Potts, 618 Northwest 2nd Street. I do work for them, another subcontractor, but I was in the mix with the storm that just hit, and I don't know how it came about, but the last contractor that y'all did have, we was basically going after the city work, and they specifically said, the contractor that y'all did have, he specifically said that I can't give y'all no work out of the city of Lake Worth. So basically, to norm that up, that's blackballing. He did not give his reason. He said that basically somebody told him, one of the city employees said that they can't give Dublin no work. So we went about trying to approach somebody else that was doing the hauling. And he basically said, no, we can't give you no work. So at the end of the day, they qualified, they got the criteria. Whatever fell down a while ago, whatever, it was denied because of one phone call that somebody made. And it should not have to be like this. Because if it's going to be blackballed like that, that means you will take all your vendors and they don't want to do no work in the city of Lake Worth. So that's all I have to say.
Would you mind staying for the city attorney? Do you have any
Sure. Well,
questions?
so we'll let them finish their presentation, and
Okay.
then if you like, they'll make a comment.
Okay. Thank you.
How are you? So just want to speak about
Can you state your name for the record,
Ed
please?
DeVoe, 1106
Thank you.
South Palm Way. I just want to speak about how all this come about and why we're here tonight. What you heard Mr. Wesley said and what my brother said is true. But when they brought it to my attention, I did speak to a few commissioners about what had happened. And I spoke to some city, I'm not sure if I spoke to the city manager, but I spoke to Jamie. And
If you could speak up just a little bit for
and
people at home, I'm sorry.
what really, I have on this phone right here an email of September 22nd. And I went down to Asbury Offers, spoke to a guy named Chris. When the city needed contractors, the worst. And he told me, he said that a gentleman by the name of Felipe, I'll call his name, because I've called his name before, said to him, don't use Dublin in the city. And I told him, and I was on the phone, right, I said, he was overreaching this boundary, and this should never happen. Now, and I told him if this ever arises again, I will bring it to the city attention. Now, unfortunately, a lot of things have transpired between September and now. And this should never happen to my firm, or my brothers. Nobody's firm. Now, where do we go from here? How do we fix the mess? Number one, what my brother didn't bring out, FEMA. Dublin is FEMA certified. Number two, Dublin is HUBZone certified. Number three, we was on the biggest stage in the history of hurricanes in New Orleans. But like my brother said, he called me back out of New Orleans, and we chose Lake Worth, where we live. Because you know what? Home is first with us. And when you need us the most, if a Cat 5 hit tomorrow, I will tell you this, and keep this in mind. Don't count on anybody, because they're too busy. But you can count on Dublin. Dublin is going to come to you and say, let's make the first pass. Even though we have other obligations, we're going to clean up home first. We're right down there. We have the muscle. Don't overlook us, because individuals don't want us in the city, for whatever reason it is. Mindless suicide. You can count on Dublin. You can't count on anybody. We're homegrown. We will take care of the city. You can count on us. You can't count on anybody else. You saw what kind of shape you was in last time. And we came to you guys. Let us make the first pass. Let's clean you up. Let's get your roads open. And then we left. Thank you.
City Attorney?
The city went through a competitive process, 13 firms applied, and while I appreciate the passion of the protesters, the fact remains they were ranked 12th, next to last. In a normal bid protest, you know, if you're picking two firms and somebody comes in third and they want to knock somebody out, maybe they move into the second position. Here, even if they were successful in the one firm that they mentioned in their letter, which I didn't mention today, it would only move them up to number 11. So they wouldn't be in line for any work in any way, shape, or form. Some of the things that were mentioned, you know, no idea if anyone ever said no work for this company, but if there was, the logical reason is because they didn't have a contract with the city. You can't give work to a firm that doesn't have a contract with the city to do debris hauling. So if that allegation is true, there's a logical reason for it. In terms of the reference to Felipe Lafaso, Felipe wasn't involved in this process at all. He was not on the selection committee, didn't have a vote in the committee, wasn't in the room. So I think that's just a red herring. They mentioned Mr. Brown, having been here a long time ago. Mr. Brown ranked him 8th. So even their supposed champion didn't have them in the top 4. So at the end of the day, the committee has broad discretion to evaluate objectively the criteria. They picked 4 other firms to be the backup hauler for the city. And again, Dublin doesn't even come close to the other firms. You know, the other firms' numbers, and they pass out the numbers to you. They're all in the 80s, and their final rank was 60-something. So, you know, certainly you're well within your discretion to deny the protest, and then proceed in the next agenda item with the award and bid.
So there's no vote necessary.
So I think there's a motion necessary to either grant their protest or to deny their protest, and staff would be recommending that you deny the protest.
Do I need a motion
Yes.
to deny the protest?
I'll make the motion. And I'll make the motion based, you know, I was obviously part of this process, and tell me if I should stop talking.
You have to have a second to.
Well, I think I want to clarify why I'm making the motion. Can I do that?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at this, the evaluation sheets, and I'm kind of a pragmatic guy. The first thing I look for is the dollar value of the contracts that they were bidding. And clearly, what they were bidding was just way out of line with the vast majority of the other bidders. And so I'm very comfortable making the motion under those circumstances. Wasn't even close.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Amoroso, Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Amoroso seconded.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Do we have any public comment? Do we accept any public comment cards? I just. You can't
He's already
because
made the presentation.
yeah, you already done your presentation. My comment is that, quite honestly, we always want to, I've brought this up in the many years that I've been here, is we always want to support our home team, when it comes to certain things in regards to it. And I appreciate them coming here to talk about this. I guess what the former vice mayor I can't disagree with is the differential, and the price is huge in comparison to some of the other bids and some of the other people that made it on there. I don't know what you tell me and advise me. I'm just trying. I'm trying to be, because I know these gentlemen and I trust these gentlemen and I like these gentlemen.
Again, at the end of the day, you had a committee that went through this whole process, comprised of, some of your department heads, Mr. Shields, Mr. Brown, and they all consistently ranked Devlin towards the bottom. Now, I know they're not happy about it. Everybody always has sour grapes. If you're not picked to play on the team, you always want to play on the team. But your team didn't pick their team. They said, no, that we've got 4 other applicants here, well, actually 11 other applicants who are better ranked than Devlin, and they're recommending to you 4. And for Mr. Maxwell, for your motion, if you don't mind making it the way it's written in the agenda, which is actually a motion to deny the protest appeal by Devlin Demolition and Site of the award of the debris removal and haul-off services, and proceed with the award as recommended by the evaluation committee.
Yes.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
And we've got a second. I would just like to say, though, like I said, I'm looking at there and I hear the mumbling out there. There's only one other bid that it's actually less than. That you're the second highest bid in there, just so that I don't want you thinking that I'm stating a number that's out of there. It's the second highest bid, number one. And number two, like I told you, like I said, I've known you for a long time and I appreciate you, and I wasn't involved in this process. The only one thing that I would say to you is that going through the process of I would like to know, in the future, that everyone has a hopeful chance. Their allegations are allegations. They're alleged at this point. But I would tell you certainly that if I was to know of any of these allegations that somebody was bad-mouthing anybody or doing anything in our organization to prevent the future work of somebody, or this company in particular, I would be extremely
disappointed.
Thank you for sparing my lips. I want to support staff in the sense of their classification, that the person that they mentioned and brought out was not involved in this process. That makes me feel more comfortable about it. We have to choose sometimes and do it, but I have, like I said, I know these people. I like these people. We've had great experiences with these people, and they've helped us out quite a bit. So I think that we have to do a little homework on our own to make sure that these processes continue to be upheld properly. But I have to call a vote, which is motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Sorry, guys. Moving on to item E, Bergeron Emergency Services Custom Tree Care, ATL Disaster Recovery. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Any public comment cards?
No, Madam Mayor.
Seeing there are none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Lake Worth Electric Utility, consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
You have an update, Madam Mayor?
Do we have an update? I'm sorry, I didn't believe there was. No, there's
No
no update.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. City Attorney, do you have a report?
Only, we went to the conference, you all know home rule, home rule, home rule. I don't have to say it anymore.
Good. City Manager, do you have anything?
Yes, I have two items, Madam Mayor, I need some direction on. One is, it's come to my attention that some representatives of the boards and committees that we have, that you've created, are going out and speaking to groups, homeowners associations, and I haven't been able to find anywhere that there's a legislative charge to authorize people to represent themselves or the committees. And I needed direction from y'all of how you wanted to handle this. It's come up as an issue where I don't know that you, as an extension of the board or committee, going out and talking about the business of that committee to a homeowners group is something you had authorized or want them to do. So I'm asking for direction so that we can proceed in directing the committees, their chairs, their different members on how to approach a request by a homeowner association to come and speak.
Commissioner Maxwell?
I think Commissioner Amoroso was first, but I'll go.
Go.
If I'm hearing you correct, City Manager, you're saying that we have folks on some of our boards that are giving presentations, if you will, regarding their boards to homeowners?
Yes.
Association, or neighborhood associations? Well, certainly, you know, everybody has the right to free speech. However, I think we've experienced here in these chambers that when somebody from a board presents themselves, they clearly identify their comments as being that of their own personal comments. It seems to me that if an individual steps out and does not clarify that, then that could be an issue, and one that we maybe should consider a ramification for. I mean, you can't go out. That'd be like me going out and say, well, the city commission says we're going to do this when they haven't voted on it. Okay, you create false expectations and you create issues for all parties concerned. So I would say that we need to craft something through our legal department that gets sent down to all the boards saying this is the proper procedure if you are going to speak in public regarding the work that you do on our volunteer board.
City Manager, do we not have directors from our departments going out and speaking to the neighborhood association?
They're available to go out, and some do more than others, but yes, they're
Well,
available.
I know that Jamie Brown does, I know Felipe does, I know
I go
Yolanda
occasionally,
does.
so.
I'm more comfortable having the professionals out there speaking on behalf of the city than somebody from an appointed board that, you know, may or may not be representing their board and may or may not be able to answer all the questions. You know, I'm more apt to direct staff to draft something through our attorney that we are already doing. We are sending professional staff from those departments with the information. I'd rather see that than board members that may or may not be, you know, directed from their board. I'd rather keep it in-house. These are the professionals that work in those departments and can answer the questions properly and represent the city.
Mr. Hardy?
As far as I understood, yes, no, as far as I understood, the city had 5 representatives, and they're sitting here.
Yes.
On this dais.
Everybody gets.
Mr. Robinson?
I'm a proponent of volunteerism, and I appreciate all the board members, and I think they have equal weight. It's sort of like the neighborhood associations presenting a person from a neighborhood presenting and representing 10 people out of a neighborhood. Not quite the same, but the staff is professional. They are accessible, and some board members look at their roles differently, and that's very difficult to regulate. And so it would probably, an easier approach would be not to have the professionals represent the boards.
I think whatever you put in place is not going to stop somebody from talking about what their passion is, and if they're on the board, they're still going to always talk about it. You know what I mean? So I think that it just needs to be that it's not anyone's individual participation in whatever way it's worded is not necessarily the views, like you have a disclaimer on an infomercial. It's not necessarily the views of the city, it's this person's one information on it, and that staff should be chosen to, if you want the city's position on it, then invite staff to come in and talk about it or whatever. But like I said, I don't think we're going to stop people that are on advisory boards from talking to their friends, talking to their neighbors, or talking to their neighborhood associations, unless you want a more formal cease and desist or something like that from having conversations about city activity. I don't know if you want to take it that far or not. I don't know. Commissioner Maxwell.
My only concern is, comments that potentially could be made that create a false expectation or start a fire, so to speak, that we're going to have to end up trying to put out. And I think, everybody has a responsibility to be responsible with how they carry themselves and how they present themselves and what they say about what they're doing. And, sometimes in the passion of the moment, we forget to throw that disclaimer out there. Even if we do, not everybody in the audience takes it to heart that it's their personal opinion. So I think there needs to be some sort of I don't know what it is. I'm all for free speech, but there's consequences for free speech too.
Vice Mayor?
Agreed, and I think the direction should be that the people that are representing the city and speaking, because I've had calls from the President's Council saying, should we invite these people to speak? I agree with Commissioner Hardy. We should be speaking, and or the professional paid employees that work in those departments should be speaking. We can't stop somebody from speaking, but we can stop them from speaking on behalf of the board and or the city, their personal opinions. And, I think we need to send a clear message from the city that, the boards represent the city, and if they want to speak on their own behalf, that's fine. But we have people that are going out and being solicited and or going and soliciting different neighborhoods for them to speak. There's a difference between getting up and saying, I sit on a board and my opinion is A, B, and C, than actually going out to be booking a speaking engagement on behalf of.
Yes.
Is there sunshine for the boards?
In
That's what my
essence,
question
there
is,
is.
yeah.
Well,
So there's just,
Sure.
So isn't there sunshine for the boards?
And actually, we have sent a few emails out to some of the board members who have been going to the, because we heard about it a few weeks ago, and we cautioned them about the sunshine law, that if they're going to be at the meeting, just as when you're running for office, or even not running for office, you go to neighborhood association meetings, we cautioned you all in the past, work with the clerk's office to have those meetings publicly noticed. And so I don't think the neighborhood associations are publicly noticing when they invite a committee member from a certain committee, but we've been certainly communicating with the couple of people who have been going out, cautioning them that they're not there representing the city and that they have risk of sunshine law violations. So any guidance that you could give would kind of give us a little more in our emails to them to try and caution them to be careful. I think as each of you is saying, everybody loves free speech, but they're also representing the city, and if a neighborhood association wants someone to speak on whatever topic it is, the city staff is more than willing to go out there and do it.
What I'm hearing from y'all is that there would be instruction in some official format to the committees and boards that they would not be going out and speaking on behalf of the committee or the city, except, and we don't really have to address it because it's implied that of somebody talking about their own personal opinions and qualifying it as theirs, but they can't speak on behalf, regardless of their position.
Or as a representative.
Or as a
So
representative.
that's what I'm clearly hearing from you. Okay, thank you for that guidance. The second item, just really briefly, I apologize, Commissioner.
No, agreed. You can't speak for the board without speaking for the city, and the city has a limited number of mouthpieces.
Yeah.
And anything
Though
that
I've been
that a
called
member
other
of-
parts.
Yeah, and anything that a member of a board can might want to address could be handled perhaps more effectively by a professional who does it all day. And that's their jobs, by the way. We should be getting that out of them. So, those are my feelings.
Okay.
The second item, our local newspaper in the county, not our local newspaper, wrote an article this last week about fire hydrants, asbestos pipes and fire hydrants in the unincorporated Lake Osborne area. And I know that this reporter had contacted Ben and Brian, and they had given him the appropriate information about these fire hydrants that
Could you move your microphone too? What is it with you guys? Stop it.
the fire hydrants, and there was so much wrong about the article that I feel compelled to actually publicly state. It was we have a term here in the city, we sort of cobble together words. It's a kerfuckle, and it's just
Point of order.
yeah.
Watch your mouth.
It really pisses me off. I just want to clarify. Y'all authorized the purchase of this old utility area that was created outside of the city limits recently when we bought the U.S. water systems, 400 customers in Lake Osborne area. The stuff in there that's not working, we're actually going through and fixing the quality of the water, everything that the residents and customers complained about. Somehow, Kevin was able to find the one person who was disgruntled, which apparently happened to be a former city employee that knew a lot about asbestos piping and all kinds of issues, which I don't know that Kevin checked and saw that it may or may not have been true, but that's not the issue. The issue is it's not our stuff. We bought it and we're fixing it. And if you read the article, it sounds really bad on our behalf. Like we knew of a problem, you just weren't taking care of it.
And we just acquired it when?
We just got it.
Last year, was it?
Within 10 months ago.
10 months ago.
And you know, you try to do the right thing. You try to really, and it's like
Darn
I said,
you.
it's not
Stop
even
doing
in
the
the
right
city. And it just the whole tone and tenor of the article incessantly is something, we've done something wrong. And he finds the people who just run off with that story. So I feel compelled to say that was full of so many inaccuracies. It's egregious, and the Post should be embarrassed. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Maxwell, seconded by Commissioner Hardy. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
It's now
Hey,
official
thank you.
Wikipedia.